Thank you very much. Welcome. Welcome to everybody in this room. Welcome to all of you online. Thank you to those online for your patience as we got everybody into the room and as we resolved a few technical issues at the start of this very second first of the annual meeting of the Global Seaweed Coalition. We are delighted to welcome you here. My name is Nicola Dyer. I am a senior advisor and the manager of the Secretariat of the Global Seaweed Coalition, and it's my pleasure to be your host for today's annual meeting. So, going to take you through the agenda of this meeting now. For those in the room, you've heard it. Let's hope that I tell you the same thing and tell the folks online the same thing. You're going to hear about the coalition, about what our mission is, what we do, what's important to us, about our transition to being global, because we have done that. We've changed names from Safe Seaweed Coalition to Global Seaweed Coalition. What underlies that transition? We're going to launch our annual report. This is the very first annual report of the Global Seaweed Coalition. We're very proud of this, and it gives the results of the Safe Seaweed Coalition and a good look forward for the Global Seaweed Coalition. We're also going to share with you some of the achievements of the coalition, because there have been some tremendous achievements over the past year since we did our first annual meeting in Lisbon last year. Then we're going to share with you some of the feedback from our member survey. We had some terrific inputs from you, our members, and we're delighted to share that input with you. Then we're going to have a session on seaweed and women, because seaweed and women, there's such a multifaceted nexus there, so we've got a great panel lined up for you on that. We'll have a break of 20 minutes. It will be a quick break, and for those online, you will have some material that we'll be scrolling through, so we won't leave you bored, and we won't be leaving you, and we will be thinking of you. We're going to come back and we're going to celebrate our members' achievements, because we're a member-driven coalition and you have achieved tremendous accomplishments in the past year, and we want to be able to showcase that. Some of them, not all of them, because there are so many of them. Then we also have some amazing reports that have come out about the seaweed market. So we're going to have a big segment on the future of the seaweed market. We'll have some terrific presentations and a panel conversation there. And then, because science is so important to this coalition, we're going to have a segment on science and technology. What do we need? What's the future there? Another panel conversation there. Then we'll have a look forward with our moving forward segment, and then we'll introduce our graphic recording artist, Fanny Didou, who is scribing our meeting, and she's going to share some of her drawings periodically during the day. And then she's going to come up and show us a fast action review of everything that we've talked about during the day. So, a couple of quick housekeeping rules. You may have noticed there's some cameras, there's sound, technical, etc. So for those in the room, we would ask you that if you do need to leave, could you please leave via the back door and not walk past here, because it will interfere with the camera's point of view, and for the recording and for the folks online, it will be a bit disruptive. So if you could please use the back doors for that. The event is being streamed and it's being recorded, so we're going to have that available for posterity. Please post your thoughts about the event. Our hashtags, feel free to use the hashtags that you would like, but we would certainly encourage you to use Seaweed Revolution and Global Seaweed Coalition. We have some 35 speakers, and we've got 155 in-person participants. I think not everybody is quite here yet, but we've got a pretty good attendance here in the room. And a further 100 people online. So 255 registered participants, and we're going to share more information about membership, because our membership just keeps growing. We'll share that later on. But now, let me turn to our very own Vincent Doumeizel, who is the co-founder of this coalition. Without his vision, this coalition really would not exist. Vincent, over to you to speak about the coalition. Thank you.
it's a bit weird for me to speak about the coalition, because by de facto you are all members of the coalition, so you know about it. But we all know that I have developed a strong addiction to cameras, microphone, and podiums over the last 2 years. So I think I needed a reason to come on stage and talk about something. I proposed, Nicolas, should I present the coalition or play guitar and sing? And say, well, let's stick to the presentation of the coalition. So, no, so yeah, this coalition was, I mean, the idea of this coalition was born a couple of years ago. Back in 2020, I mean, when I convinced the Lloyd's Register Foundation to support this idea and to bring people together, which was quite a challenging time for this idea, because back in 2020, you cannot even meet with your parents at this time. We were all in lockdown, and bringing people together was like complicated. But here we are today. I mean, we were together first time in Lisbon, really. And now we are together here. So this coalition has an objective to bring, once again, people together and to share knowledge and to share everything in order to accelerate change, to accelerate innovation. And I think that what we are doing with our project, we have reached, I mean, we have now over 1,000 members with this coalition in 70 plus countries. So we are a global one. We are the voice of this industry. We are trying to be in a totally neutral and holistic way, not being biased by anything. So we still have this objective to represent all of you, to be your voice. So once again, as mentioned by Nicolas, it is a member-driven coalition. So you need to give us insight, you need to give us input, you need to tell us what you want to do out of it. We will soon run a third round of funding for our project, but besides this, we want to create a community. We want to bring people together and develop this cooperation. But once again, you are all actors in this coalition. So I think we have not done maybe enough over the last 2 years to develop some project that would be driven by our members. I think we should focus on that now. Create roundtables of discussion, organize discussion between our members, remotely or locally. Leverage on our ambassadors and a strong network of ambassadors that we have created. So we need to work further on this. We have a lot of objectives as well, through big meetings, through big gatherings, and we'll keep you in touch. But yeah, I would like to thank all of you to be here. I would like to thank well, the Institut Oceanographique, of course, of Monaco for well. Yeah. We'll do. Okay, so but just, yeah, that's the coalition. Please spread the word about the coalition. The more we are, the better it is. We hope we'll be able to be even more, and notably in Asia, we need to have more presence. I think we are very much of a Western coalition so far, with a little presence in Asia, so I think we need to get better there, where seaweed is already a solution. So thank you very much to all of you, at least. I'm glad to see you all. It feels like a family here. So it's a family gathering, and I look forward to speaking with all of you and to exchange more. Thank you, and thank you, Nicolas, for all of this.
Thanks, Vincent. Pleasure. Thank you very much. And so you'll have been seeing playing on the screen some more details that some of you may be really, really familiar with what we do with our 4 action pillars, and you'll be even more familiar with them once you've taken a look at our annual report. And who is in the Secretariat? So this is important information for you. You can always reach out to our email, the secretariat@globalseaweedcoalition.org, and we'll get a response to you. Sometimes during the really heavy times, we might take a little bit of time to respond, but please, reminders are a gift. Don't worry about that. Please do feel free to reach out. And just wanted to let you know that we might have a special guest coming. You see that scientific officer recruitment being finalized? Little secret, we might have the scientific officer whose recruitment is being finalized somewhere in the room very soon. So just to let you know that the being finalized is really very much on the way. And that's going to be important for us to be able to do our call for proposals as well as to support our scientific council. And this is what I'm going to talk with you about now, about how that transition, how it's playing out. Some of you, again, may be very familiar. We created a scientific council. We created a strategic advisory council that has new governance bodies, as well as an oversight body, the leadership committee, that is composed of our founding members, our founding partners being Lloyd's Register Foundation, to whom we're extremely grateful for that initial $3 million in funding and for all of the support that Lloyd's Register Foundation provides. So please, let's give a round of thanks to Lloyd's Register Foundation for all that the LR Foundation has done. Thank you so much. And we also, because we're a partnership, we wouldn't be able to do what we do without the scientific support of the CNRS, the French National Research Center. So I'm looking at Philippe, our scientific director. Thank you very much to the CNRS for your scientific leadership, for your support. It's very important. And finally, to UN Global Compact. UN Global Compact has become our new host. And so Vincent is here also incarnating not just Lloyd's Register Foundation, also UN Global Compact. And we'll be hearing shortly from Sturla Henriksen on UN Global Compact's vision for seaweed and its ambitions for the coalition and for seaweed. So we're really grateful to all our partners. Another round of applause, please, for UN Global Compact. So, and in all of this, our mission, as you saw on the screen, our mission is to support the safe and sustainable scale-up of the seaweed sector, grounded in science. And the safety aspect, there's 3 dimensions to that safety. It's environmental safety, it's consumer safety, it's occupational safety. And many of you are so involved in delivering on that mission of doing our scale-up of the sector safely as well as sustainably. So the strengthening of our governance, we're grateful to our council members, to our scientific council members. So could I just have a little show of hands in the room from those of you who are scientific council members, please, because we have several in the room. So our chair is Philippe Potin, and I think I saw about 5 hands in the room, and I'm sure that there are several people online as well. Thank you to our scientific council members. You're going to be hearing very shortly from the chair of our scientific council, Philippe Potin, as well as the chair of our strategic advisory council, Anushka Concepcion. And they're going to be telling us what those councils are doing, what your tasks are. And finally, strategic advisory council members, could you please raise your hands, those who are in the room? Terrific, and some of you have come from really far, and we're very grateful to you. So let's have a round of applause also for our council members. Finally, the leadership committee is just composed of representatives of those 3 founding partners. So now, without further ado, let me turn over to Anushka and to Philippe to present the work of the 2 councils. Thank you. Anushka, Philippe.
Everyone online, nice to see you. So as Nicola said, I'm the chair of the Strategic Advisory Council for the Global Seaweed Coalition, and what I wanted to provide all of you today is a quick overview on our roles and responsibilities. So first of all, we do work in conjunction with the Scientific Council, but our primary roles are to provide strategic guidance and perspectives on the global developments and opportunities that's relevant to the seaweed sector. It's all based in safety. That's also important to note. We provide strategic input. We develop policy recommendations, and we also identify high strategic impact events for the Global Seaweed Coalition participation globally. We also provide financing recommendations, most importantly through our annual call for proposals. And then we're also part of the team that also provides reviews for those proposals. This year, though, in particular, I think we're very excited that we have had the opportunity, again, together with the Scientific Council, to play a critical role in developing a set of ambitious targets that, again, based in science as well as safety, to be proposed for the adoption at the UN Climate Conference, or COP28, which will be in Dubai, I believe, next month. And so some of the objectives from the Scientific Council are as follows. Our first highest priority was reducing livestock methane emissions, and again, utilizing seaweed and how that should be incorporated. We also identified reducing atmospheric carbon dioxide, or decarbonizing the economy through utilization of seaweed as food ingredient, biomaterial, and/or biostimulants. We also identified mitigating ocean acidification, as well as reducing nutrients, including nitrogen, as also a priority, as well as finally establishing an international seaweed research consortium, which I'm sure my colleague, Dr. Potun, will give more information about. What we have also done was suggested pathways to meet these objectives, which I won't go into now, but I believe that they will be provided in some form of documentation soon.
Anushka is looking to me just for confirmation on that. Yeah. The next step is that the two councils are going to meet jointly and have a discussion about these targets.
Yes, thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you very much. That's my overview. Thank you.
Thanks, Anushka. So over to you. Please.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Paris. It's really a pleasure for me to talk to you about our new organization for the new Scientific Council of the Global Seaweed Coalitions. Of course, in the past, many scientists were involved in the advisory board of the Safe Seaweed Coalition, and some of the previous members are still in the new Scientific Council, but this new Scientific Council is much more open, and we have tried to attract the best scientists in the seaweed world. So we have really a complementary expertise in this new Scientific Council. We will have a very important task. Of course, as a coalition is science-grounded, we have to provide the best advices for all the other councils of the coalition to our members, but to bring this knowledge to the community, we have to make it accessible, to make it usable in terms of development of the seaweed sector. So that will be an important task of an important discussion within the Scientific Council. We also ambition to be really edible by the largest community. So that means in terms of science, we will be accessible for colleagues working in other sectors of the marine sciences, but also we will have a strong impact of our activities, which could be published in very impactful journals. Like you have seen, it is very important to advocate some sectors and to guarantee, in fact, these sectors are developing science groundly. So that will be a very important activity, and I will need for that the strong support of a scientific officer we will have in the room very shortly. So the other activities of the Scientific Council, of course, will be to continue the science-based activities of the coalition, which were to, in fact, launch call for proposals in order to set up some projects which will contribute, in fact, to seeding or developing some activities in different countries all over the continents, and which will be, of course, in strong connection with the local smallholders, and we will be also in contact with the local industry. So the call for proposal will start again, and I will work hardly during October to be able to launch the next call for proposal for a small project at that time by November, and to be able to select early next year the best project we will continue to support. In the past, we supported more than 24 projects. So the call will be open, and then, of course, we ambition to develop new calls. And then, to finish, I will conclude that a very important task also for the Scientific Council will be to provide some scientific guidance through the community by the means of online webinars. We have already started 2 of these webinars, thanks to our new colleagues, Catriona Hurd from the University of Tasmania, who took a very nice presentation about the importance of seaweeds for contributing to blue carbon, but in which sense it could contribute to blue carbon. And then also with Thierry Chopin, who provided also a very stimulating talk about integrated multi-trophic activity. These webinars will continue, and we will announce the next coming for its different topics, and I will have the opportunity to talk more about science in a few minutes. Thank you.
Thank you, Philippe. Among the many important points that Philippe shared is so many of you have been asking us about when's the next call for proposals. Thank you, Philippe, for sharing that information. Now we are going to turn to Sturla Henriksen. Thank you very much. Looking forward to hearing your points about the UNGC's vision for the coalition and for seaweed. Thanks, Sturla. Please welcome Sturla Henriksen.
Thank you very much, Nicole. A very good morning to you all. Thanks for inviting me here and in these beautiful surroundings. When we started work at the UN Global Compact about the ocean, ocean was all about conservation and preservation. It was all about coral reefs and mangroves, and basically it was the least prioritized of all of the 17 SDGs. No one really cared, basically. Now it's very different. Now the ocean is really surging on the international agenda, and I think that a turning point in many ways was the formal inclusion of the ocean climate nexus on the COP26 agenda for Glasgow. And now this ball is really moving. And the UNGC Ocean Stewardship Coalition is encompassing a wide variety of activities. We take a 360 holistic view on the ocean. We have work streams on shipping, decarbonizing shipping, on harnessing electricity from the ocean, on ocean finance, blue bonds, on just and equitable transition, and not least, of course, one of our flagship projects, the Global Seaweed Coalition. And you know, my good friend and our seaweed rock star, Vincent, you know, when we are discussing this coalition, whatever the topic is, whatever the problem is, always seaweed is the answer to any problem at all. And it's a very compelling proposition, isn't it? A solution to some of our most pressing existential challenges of today, where you have the ability to sequester greenhouse gases, to restore ocean health and productivity, and provide a habitat for an abundance of marine life. A solution which can provide sustainable economic growth to local communities, coastal communities, and also provide employment opportunities to women, not least in the global south. A solution which can provide healthy and nutritious food to a growing world population, food produced with negative emissions to air, positive environmental footprints, and with less exposure to disruptions caused by climate change and extreme weather events. And also, at not least, a solution which is nature-based, which has low barriers to entry, low tech, low upfront costs, and scalable in nature. So this is almost too good to be true, but to tap the full potential of this, we have to work systematically, as you do in the Global Seaweed Coalition, because this will not happen by default. It will only happen by design. And this requires, not least, that you are setting, as you do, ambitious targets that are science-based, that are measurable, and that are realistically attainable, that we have are developing an international regulatory framework which ensures that scaling up is done in a safe, secure, and sustainable manner. That seaweed production and products are incentivized as part of the market incentives for the green transition, for instance, by including in carbon credit schemes, that there are adequate funding mechanisms to enable and scale up this. And this requires a multi-stakeholder approach. This requires bringing together governments, industries, science, local and indigenous communities, as you do in the Global Seaweed Coalition, proudly hosted by the UN Global Compact. So I want to wish you good luck with today's work. I want to thank you for your contributions and your commitment. And not least, I want to thank you for keeping the hope alive for a better and sustainable and prosperous world for all. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Sturla, for those inspiring words. It's just terrific. We're really grateful to Global Compact for hosting us. Now, we're going to turn to our founding partner, CNRS. We were going to be hearing directly from the Director of Research, Emmanuel Brouillet, who is unfortunately ill. So we're going to have Philippe Potin again, who is going to share the words of Emmanuel Brouillet. So Philippe, may I invite you to come back up, please? But this time, you are seeing Emmanuel Brouillet through the person of Philippe. Thank you. Thank you. Welcome, Emmanuel, through Philippe.
Yeah. So again, so good morning from Emmanuel. So unfortunately, Emmanuel is unable to speak this morning. He is currently the head of the international affairs for the Institute for Biological Sciences at CNRS. And this institute from CNRS, it's a very important institute for seaweeds and algae in general, because it is hosting a lot of laboratories which are in fact providing excellent science in terms of algal research. But of course, CNRS is also composed of several other institutes for the environment and ecology, which are also conducting very important research on the sectors of the oceans and of course seaweeds and algal populations. But what is also very important to stress for CNRS is that it is really a multidisciplinary institute. So all, in fact, disciplines are represented at CNRS in France. CNRS is composed of more than 33,000 employees, so two-thirds of them are full researchers, but we have also a lot of engineers, technicians, and administrative people. And these people are supporting all sectors, including social sciences, but of course much more technological-driven sciences, like of course engineering, but also mathematics. So that means we can find at CNRS every type of expertise in terms of science, which will be in fact assembled to establish collaborative works and really contribute to important, of course, national programs, but also international programs. Of course, CNRS is involved in many European projects, and we are collaborating with a lot of other organizations within Europe, including, of course, French institutes, but also prestigious universities all over Europe. And we are developing more and more international cooperation in other continents. There is very important programs, of course, between CNRS and Americas, both North America and South America, and also in Asia, and much more recently in Australasia, and of course in Africa. And the way CNRS is developing cooperation is by establishing international networks. This is the first steps, of course, to establish strong scientific cooperation. but then also by developing some international research laboratories. And there were several evolutions during the recent years in terms of international research laboratories, which are much more now based in local countries, in other continents. In the past, some of them were really strongly based in France. Now it is no longer the case. Of course, there is strong cooperation between the French researcher of CNRS located in France with the colleagues abroad, but now the decisions are taken in the country where the international laboratories are hosted. This is a very important change, in fact, in terms of, managing the decision for the research, the collaborative research with France. So I will not say more about that. I will just say a few words about, of course, the importance of seaweed for CNRS, especially through, of course, my institute at Roscoff, the Station Biologique, who is hosting more than 70 people dedicated to seaweed research. This is an important contribution in many sectors, from the genetics to the chemistry of seaweeds, and we are collaborating with many colleagues also belonging to CNRS or joint laboratories with CNRS in social sciences and other disciplines, and of course the other institutes in France. And what we have tried to do during the last, I would say, 12, 13 years, was to develop cooperative work and, in fact, networks, first at the national level and then at the European level, to be much more efficient and much more impactful in terms of bringing science to the seaweed sector.
Well, that worked.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Philippe. We're going to be hearing from Philippe again on the science pillar. Actually, Philippe, you've covered quite a bit of it already, and we really appreciate that. Thank you. So we'll be inviting Philippe back in a little while. Right now, I am delighted, proud, pleased, etc., to invite our communications intern, Andrea Blanc, to present our new annual report. This is the formal launch of our very first annual report. Andrea, please. Woo-hoo!
Hello everyone, so I'm very pleased to introduce you, as Nicolas said, to the first ever annual report of the Global Seaweed Coalition. Yes. So this report covers the period January 2021 to December 2022. So from the creation of the coalition as the Safe Seaweed Coalition into its transformation into the Global Seaweed Coalition. So within its pages, you will discover a message from the representatives of the founding organizations of the coalition. You will also find updates on the core pillars of our coalition, so funding, advocacy, science and technology, and policy. And in the appendix, we've also put together an extensive table which contains a lot of details on the different projects that the coalition has funded in its 2 calls for proposals. And among the details, you will find a description of the project, why they were needed, and also the safety aspects and the SDGs they cover. And this report will be available online this afternoon. And as you may have seen, we also have physical copies in the exhibition room right here that we welcome you to take with you. So it's been a pleasure to work on this project, and thank you to everyone who was involved and helped me put all the pieces together of this puzzle. We're very proud of this report, and we hope you'll find it informative and enjoyable to read through. Thank you.
Thank you. Huge thanks to Andrea for putting this together. We would not have been able to do the annual report without you, so please, this is great. Do please feel free to share the news about the annual report, share it on your networks, as well as, of course, take your very own hard copy with you. And now it's my pleasure to turn to our very own Sofia Mishenko, who's going to share with us. We're going to go now through our 4 pillars. And Sofia is going to take us through a rapid overview of the projects that we've been funding. Thanks, Sofia. Take it away.
Yes, thank you, Nicola, so much. So I will just quickly go through the overview of all the projects that we've funded so far. We have delivered 1.1 million euros to 24 projects across 26 countries, and you can see all the projects on the screen. I'm sure a lot of you are already familiar with most of the projects, and some of the projects are already around, so feel free to walk around and just meet all of our grantees. So, as Philippe said, the third call will be planned for November, so we're very excited for that as well. But these proposals awarded funding addressed the coalition's three safety focus areas: consumer, environmental, and operational. So these projects are expected to have a long-term impact across the whole seaweed value chain, especially in developing countries and smallholder communities. So they cover a really wide range of topics, namely food and consumer safety, bio-based packaging safety, environmental safety, biosecurity, certification, traceability, occupational health, technology, and innovation safety. So the first call for proposals resulted in 700,000 euros in funding. The coalition received 71 proposals, and we financed 16, with seed funding capped at 50,000 euros each. In the second call, we had 400,000 euros, and we have received 58 proposals, and we have financed 8. So as you can see in those numbers, there is a really gap between the submitted and the supported applications, and that just reflects the significant unmet demand for the coalition financing. So that's why nowadays the Global Seaweed Coalition is looking for funds from private, public, and philanthropic donors to continue supporting these amazing projects. Yeah, thank you so much.
And we are going to once again hear from Philippe, because our action is, as we were talking before, about it's underpinned by science and technology. So Philippe's already shared quite a bit of information about it, but I'm sure, Philippe, you have a few more points to share about the details on our action on science and technology, and maybe just to underpin again the webinar series, and we welcome ideas on it as well. Thanks. Over to you, Philippe.
As the coalition is grounded in science, this is a very important part of our activities, and we have developed, of course, a lot of means to achieve that. So I already talked about the importance of developing webinars, and of course, I was mentioning also as the Scientific Council will be very supportive to follow the new project. So I was mentioning that it is important to develop and to continue to support a small project, but we will have a discussion later on this morning about the importance of supporting, or at least to be part, to involve the coalition in cooperation with other international organizations in the seaweed sectors, like the International Seaweed Association, or in some continents, the EABA in Europe, or other associations in other continents, to develop cooperative efforts, not only with the academic sector, but also with the private sectors, to be much more ambitious in terms of developing the basic research, but also the applied research for the seaweed sectors. And so that will probably involve the development of new tools, and we will have the opportunity to discuss that in a panel later on this morning. So I will stop here because I think we will have other opportunities to stress the importance of science within the coalition during the morning.
Terrific. Thank you very much, Philippe. And as we continue to go through our pillars, we're actually going to have Vincent talking to us about two of them, about both our policy and our advocacy pillars. So Vincent, over to you, please.
So yeah, we try to advocate, as you may have seen, over the last 2 years, and to put the seaweed agenda where it should be. Amongst our achievements, we supported FAO to include seaweed in the Codex Alimentarius, so we should have in the upcoming months, possibly years, it takes quite a long time, a global seaweed regulation for food safety by FAO, which is highly needed and which would be a great achievement in order to streamline the different regulation. We are calling and actively calling for international and national policies and ambitious policies, hopefully. France will introduce his, but there's other action all around the world. We have organized independent dialogue at the UN Food Systems Summit, at the Committee on Food Security. We have joined the UN Ocean Conference and organized there in Lisbon the first Seaweed Day, yeah, indeed, sorry, and the first summit of this kind. And we will, of course, participate, and we are already strongly involved in the participation of the next UN Ocean Conference, which will take place in Nice, as you know, in June 2025, and which is a big gathering with a very strong political ambition. And we'll hear this afternoon from Olivier Poivre d'Arvor, who is the French ambassador for the ocean and the poles, and who is the special envoy for this summit. So it's going to be a big thing in the agenda, and we are already preparing that. Of course, the COP, climate, but also biodiversity. I think it's important to recognize the ecosystem services from seaweed, and the COP biodiversity will be a critical aspect. We are also very active, and we organize in this very room the first gathering around seaweed as a substitute to plastic. So we are part of the plastic negotiations as well. We have a delegate there with UN Global Compact, Ocean, and we strongly promote seaweed as a solution to replace plastic. And there's not many solutions, actually, to replace plastic at a global level. So we are also part of these discussions. There's many of them, once again, but we are trying to represent you. So once again, this is all yours. So you need to tell us where to go, what to do. You need to be part of this discussion. You need to get to these meetings and to represent with us. It's not up to the Secretariat, it's up to all of us. I keep saying it's a collective thing. We are a team here with the Secretariat, but you should be all part of that team and join us in these meetings wherever and whenever you can. So I think it's very important to make seaweed on the global agenda. We are working with the World Bank as well. Nicolas has great connection there. I think this EU meeting is also that we have today is also a strong achievement for all of us. We are improving well in the US as well. So once again, there's a lot to be done. We are working with UNEP also on some projects that we will disclose in the upcoming months. So there's a lot to be done. There's a lot to do, and but we need your support. So once again, thank you very much for supporting us. I think you heard enough of me today and over the last months, so I will stay short for once.
Thanks, Vincent. And it's great. We're catching up on some of the time. You heard there how interlinked policy and advocacy really are. And it's important that the Secretariat and that our members really be very active on the policy front. It's something that we've been hearing since day one of the coalition. So thanks very much, Vincent. And now, speaking of behind the scenes, we have our communications manager, Azzedine Badis, who usually stays behind the scenes, but this time we're going to bring him up to the front. Azzedine, please.
So hello everyone. Yeah, I'm feeling a bit shy. So as Nicolas said, I'm not that used of being on the front stage. And I will step back a little bit, relax. I have 3 minutes. So I prepared a few notes. I will complement what Vincent already said about that connection between advocacy and communication, and especially because communications and advocacy are the mission of all members of the seaweed community. So, as I said, I tend to prefer to be the one shedding light on the numerous initiatives our growing seaweed community is undertaking. Today, I have the light for 3 minutes, so here I am, Azzedine Badis, Communication Manager of the Global Seaweed Coalition. If you ever tagged the coalition on a social network, you have been tagging me. And if I did not answer, you have all my apologies. If you have been followed by some mysterious seaweeds, green, red, or brown, on what was called Twitter, it may have been me too. I wanted to start by greeting our members in person and online. I wanted also to thank you, not only for attending, but because when we speak about advocacy and communications, as Vincent said, We are not only speaking about the relentless work our team is doing, raising the profile of seaweed in high-level meetings and policy networks. We are not only speaking about these little posts and articles I am pushing in our social networks and on our stakeholder platform, no. When speaking about advocacy and communications, I am speaking about you and your everyday advocacy. You are the main drivers of the figures displayed on the screen, and it's quite modest, but I'm still proud of them. There is no global seaweed coalition without the whole seaweed sector, and we keep repeating it relentlessly. Without our scientific, industry, and institutional stakeholders, as well as this great community of seaweed enthusiasts who keep pushing our common message. I wanted to say a word about this common messaging. Our challenge is great. The world is in dire need of solutions, and we are witnessing a great interest in solutions based on nature. As we are striving to organize the seaweed sector to play its full role in the fight against climate change, securing livelihoods, and restoring ecosystems, we are more than ever in need of keeping our feet grounded in science and stay connected to the legitimate debates happening in the community. Our coalition is not a church. Our coalition is precisely meant to be the place to build a science-based and community-driven seaweed messaging, and it can only happen with your participation. Thank you all.
Thank you, Azadine. Thank you very much. And this is a beautiful segue into the feedback from our members. And we are so proud to announce that as of this morning, we have 1,214 members. Our membership has passed the 1,200 mark, which is fantastic. Keep spreading the word. Please keep spreading the word. Now I'm delighted to pass the floor to Adrien Vincent, who's going to share some high-level overview of the feedback from our members. Adrien, thank you.
That was sent in advance to feed into this meeting today. So this survey was full of insights regarding preferences in the way the Global Seaweed Coalition could work, and also some broader considerations. But before, some statistics, because I like data. We had 59 respondents, 66% male, 34% female. All continents were represented, with still some overrepresentation of European members, with 60% of respondents. All backgrounds were covered, from industry to academia to investors to civil society and other types. And among the industry respondents, the majority were producers and or processors. And finally, the last factual insight was that the majority of the respondents discovered the coalition through a friend, through social media, and through global forums. So now, in terms of the insights when it comes to the preferences for the Global Seaweed Coalition way of working and priority topics, what the respondents said was that the best way to interact with the members for the coalition would be webinars, which was number one, 68%, real-life events and meetings like today, 66%, and working groups, 58%. That there was another question about the priority topics that the members would like to see the coalition working on. We had climate and biodiversity, technology and innovation, food and consumer safety, environmental safety, traceability and certification as the top 5. The next thing was about how should the GSC devote its efforts. So there were multiple choices, and it was hard for members to prioritize, so it was almost like all of the above all the time. But if I try to pick the top 3, it was really about the GSC should be continuing to support the industry, advocate for the sector, and advance the state of science. So very much aligned with the pillars you have heard about. The last element about the way of working of the GSC was a question around what should the Global Seaweed Coalition be promoting at COP28 in terms of messaging when it comes to seaweed and climate. And so it was an open question, so we had lots of different answers. But if I summarize, we really had 2 main trends that I think go nicely together. On one hand, people want the GSC to promote seaweed as a climate solution, at least as part of the tools we have to address climate change and to adapt to climate change. But next to that, let's not overpromise. Let's be science-based. Let's wait for the science to help us better quantify and understand these mechanisms, and let's avoid greenwashing. So I think with that, Nicola, you are equipped for COP. Then in terms of broader considerations, we had two big questions, one about what are the big challenges you see coming for the seaweed sector, and one about the opportunities. Challenges, interestingly, the first one was really an external factor about climate change and diseases, which is really threatening the production, especially in established production countries. Then the second challenge, which is maybe a bit more Western biased, what about production costs for farming, which are still too high today, while the industry is not fully scaled up. And the third element, the third challenge, was the difficulty to enter new markets, be it because the demand is not there yet, or because consumers are not aware, or regulations are hindering the entry of new products. Now, when it comes to opportunities, so what are the kind of supporting trends we can build on? Three main ones were mentioned: the increasing promotion or awareness among the consumer and the general public. The second one was the kind of innovation wave with all these new products we'll hear about today and tomorrow, all these new product applications. And the last one was a growing attractiveness of the sector for youth. And so we see lots of new people, young ambassadors, young entrepreneurs who want to make a difference in the seaweed sector. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Adrien. And for those who might have been wondering, that was indeed Adrien who was speaking. It was not Nicola Dyer. We did make that change at the last minute. Grateful to Adrien for summarizing those results. And actually, and the team doesn't know that I'm about to say this, but we can keep the survey open a little bit longer. If any of you would like to contribute now that you've heard these results, please, by all means, we would like to hear from all of you. So we're happy to keep the survey open a little bit longer. Now, it is my pleasure to turn to our first panel of the day. So, it's the Seaweed and Women segment. And so, I may not be inviting everybody from the panel to come on stage because I don't quite see everybody in the room. They may be being mic'd up. So what we're going to do is I will turn first. This is about, okay, I see movement. Not sure what's going on here. What we know is there are many women involved in the seaweed sector, and there's been research done on it. I've actually contributed, so at some point I'm going to take off my MC hat, and I'm going to invite myself to be a member of the panel. And don't worry, I'm not actually schizophrenic on this, but I am going to change personalities for a little while. I'm going to have Dr. Flower Nsuya, who has done much research on the subject of seaweed and women. We will have Karen Schofield-Seal, who couldn't be with us today, but who's very kindly agreed to provide a video and is going to join us online. And that may not be a video. She's going to be joining us by Zoom. We'll have Runa Ray, an extraordinary figure in the world of fashion and sustainability. And you will, for those of you who are here, you will be seeing Runa's exhibition as well. She's brought some dresses and even a dress that is made of seaweed. Would very much invite you, those of you who are here, to check that out. It's as you come into the venue, there is a room to your left where there's some exhibits, including the dresses that Runa has set up. And our Strategic Advisory Council member, Soc Banzuela, Raul Socrates Banzuela, is also going to join to share the experience of women in the Philippines. There are many smallholder farmers in the Philippines. So Soc is a member of our Strategic Advisory Council. Flower is a member of our Scientific Council. Going to invite the panelists to come up while we, first of all, so what we're going to do is have, first of all, presentations by each of those panelists. Then we'll have a panel conversation, Q&A. We'll collect at least one question from the room, one question from online. We're going to do it the simple, old-fashioned way, and Azadine is going to feed me what those questions are. He's also going to take this mic, and Azadine will be the one who's going to present the mic to a person in the audience to present their questions. So as you're listening to the panelists, please do be thinking about any questions that you might have for them. So at least one question from the room, one question from online, and let us now turn to Karen, who's joining us from afar. just confirming that we, oh, there she is. Hi, Karen. Please go ahead. We do not hear you, Karen. So, sound folks, can you please double check that?
Yep, that was my fault.
Perfect.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Karen Schofield-Seal. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Oceanium. Just as a bit of background, Oceanium, we are based in the UK. We have developed a proprietary refinery technology which breaks seaweed down into its component parts and produces products that are in very high demand, including plant-based food ingredients, nutraceuticals, and ocean-based, which is our basis for our materials. And in terms of, women in seaweed, I just have a few words to say and then look forward to the panel. One of the reasons, and one of the main reasons I got involved in seaweed in the very first place in 2018 was because of the opportunities and the ability for seaweed and seaweed farming to be an economic empowerment tool for women. Through previous positions working with RED and Comic Relief, as well as an ambassador for the International Center for Research on Women, I know very well how important education for girls and economic empowerment and agency is for women around the world. And so this is one of the key reasons I did get involved in seaweed. I came across a World Bank report, as well as a BBC Radio 4 program called Sex, Seaweed, and Liberation, which did talk exactly about how it does provide economic agency, and actually in Tanzania. So I do think it's a real opportunity to, of course, the industry is well established in Asia, and there's opportunities to establish new products, new things to increase the value of seaweed, but there's also a real opportunity to create an industry here in the Western Hemisphere, which is what we are looking to do to enable the seaweed farming industry. In terms of challenges, as a CEO of a startup working in the seaweed world, I think all of us in the Western Hemisphere are facing significant challenges. It's a new supply chain, new technologies, logistics, regulatory, and of course, funding. These are all challenges that we are facing as an emerging industry in the West. Do I think that it's been more difficult as a woman? I don't think so. I think it's probably as challenging for all of us that are involved. Funding is the last one that I mentioned. I do think, statistically, women-led startups do receive significantly less funding, 2% actually of overall VC funding. So could be a challenge that we do see. That is something that could be addressed, and we look at where the impact investors and the ocean investors are funding. Having said that, we did just raise, and would it have been more or a shorter raise if it had been led by a man? I don't know. I would like to think not. I do think also, and I'll just finish on this, I do think that, coming into this industry without a background in seaweed or marine science or food, I find the industry very welcoming, and I'm very grateful to the first people I met in the seaweed industry, including Michelle Stanley at Scottish Association for Marine Science and Liz Cotier-Cook, who really welcomed me in and were very generous with their time and their knowledge. And I'm still learning compared to other women who have been in the field for so long. I'm still a newbie and will be, but I appreciate their support. And it's really great to see so many women seaweed farmers, from Brianna Warner in Maine, and Kyla and Angela Mead here in UK. So it's great that the tradition of seaweed farming by women is continuing on in the West. And I'll stop there.
All right. Thank you. Thank you very much, Karen. Please stay where you are. You're going to be in the panel discussion. I'm going to invite each panelist to come up to make a quick presentation, and then to please take your seats so that we, as you finish, just please take your seat, and then we will continue. So, over now to Ms. Runa Ray. Please share some experiences with us, both on a woman in the seaweed sector, in a unique perspective, as well as what you've learned from other women in India. Thank you, Runa.
Thank you so much. Is this on? Can you hear me?
Not yet, but I'm sure it will be. Try it again.
Hello?
Yep.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much. I love the energy in this room. It's fantastic, and it gives me great joy and great pleasure to be a part of this membership of the great Global Seaweed Coalition. So my journey in seaweed started off when I started looking into the design processes in fashion. And I was heavily into prints. And at one point, there was a research and survey that came out that said 20% of global water wastage is because of printing. So I found this one technique which went back to 12th century Japan, where you used water which was contained in a trough. And when you had this water contained in a trough, and you had inks that were splashed on the surface, it reduced water wastage and water pollution, and that directly impacted the health of the oceans. So I found this secret ingredient, which was supposed to be used in food, and I used it as a coagulant for this water that was used in the trough, and I did my entire printing through this. So I was invited for the preliminary ocean conference, and I got to meet Vincent over there, so we kind of sat down, we were having lunch, and I was telling, and Vincent gave me his first book on seaweed, and I was reading it, and he was like, so what do you do? I said, I'm a fashion designer, and I found this really cool technique that takes care of, you know, the ocean health. And he's like, what is that ingredient? I said, I use carrageenan, and he's like, do you know that's seaweed? And I was like, really? And that's how we hit it off. But anyways, fashion has to have some sort of element, so I've had these garments that Nicolas said that is being exhibited, and I like Vincent to come on stage and to showcase something. I think you want it the other way around.
Do we have the cameras on, Vincent?
Thank you.
So going back into my journey with seaweed, when I spoke with Vincent, I started realizing the importance of this sea vegetable, as he put it. This took me to India to find out how carrageenan was actually made through the indigenous communities and working with people who actually use the cottage industry as one of their main sources of income. So when I worked with these women in seaweed, we were actually harvesting indigenous seaweed, and I got to find out the challenges that were faced with seaweed because of climate change, and another thing which was the invasive blue-green algae, which was really affecting the oceans, the fish, and also the growth of seaweed. There was another big problem that was taking place was that you had, there were no laws basically for the ocean. So you had the fisher people who wouldn't allow the government to actually have seaweed farms because they were like, this belongs to us. So you had these challenges that were being faced, and women in seaweed were particularly affected because you had the men folk who would go out and fish, but the women were actually the ones who would dive into the oceans and get the seaweed. So what I did was, as a designer, I believed that it was important to connect people, connect communities, and get fashion to understand where the source of what they're using is coming from, not just go to a big brand and pick something that was already ready-made. So I worked with these women, we made the carrageenan, I taught them how to do the printing, we started working on making handmade paper. This created another alternative income, and then at the end of the day, we worked towards trying to create a circular economy, connecting fashion with communities, then, and also trying to create some sort of transparency, and which is only possible through the Global Seaweed Coalition. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Runa. Please do take a seat over here on the panel. Runa, please. There we go. And I'm going to invite now Flower Msuya to please speak about the experience in Zanzibar and globally that you have learned about through your research. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Nicole, and everyone. So I will talk about what I think about the women, you know. And it is the local context because we are talking about Zanzibar, right? So in Zanzibar, the women do two things in the seaweed industry. They farm the seaweed, which means they plant it, they harvest it, they dry it, and then they have a product that they can sell, okay? That is one thing that they do. The second thing they do is to add value to the seaweed, which means the seaweed that they produce, they use it to make different food and cosmetic products. So this is the second thing that they do. So over the years, as a woman, I've been working very closely to these women. So I've been advising them and working with them and knowing what their challenges are and so on. So we come to the question, how can these women be sustainable, have a sustainable livelihood, and how can they really make their economy more interesting? How can they empower themselves with their economy? Now, when I think of this, I say that the women actually need to look at the challenges that they are facing and convert them into opportunities. Okay? So, for example, in the farming, there's the challenge of climate change. Many of you know about this. So there are diseases and pests, and these women already know, some of them, that most of them, that they need to farm seaweed in the deep water areas. So for them, the women, I think they need to be more assertive in their way so that they can transform the challenges to opportunities. In the farming, if they have to move to the deep water, to farm seaweed in the deep waters, because now they cannot produce the higher value seaweed, so they are producing the lower value seaweed, so they are getting less money. So economically, it is already a challenge to them. So if they go to the deep water areas, they have to knock on the doors of everyone who they think can help, and then take these opportunities and use them in their seaweed industry. They can maximize the farming. When it is a good farming season, they can farm more and produce more of this seaweed. And also, they have a challenge of seed, especially during the bud growing season. They can have their small nursery farms in the areas where they are farming to keep the seed, so that when the good season is up, they can use this the seed to maximize the production. Okay. So in the value addition, okay, most of these of their products are not certified, and because it is expensive to do certification with the Tanzania Bureau of Standards, and it is known that if they are like 10 products or 10 people wanting the certification, it is cheaper than one person or two people. So they should also look at this opportunity to come together and work to get the certification from the Bureau of Standards. And you know, when they do this certification, it means they expand the market. Because for now, the market is limited. They sell to tourists, they sell to exhibitions, but now they have to be assertive in a way that when they go to exhibitions, for example, they should go with their business cards, they should go with their websites, and then they should really contact people and make sure that they get more of the market for their sustainability. So what I can say is that for the women to be sustainable in livelihood and to be economically empowered, they need to be assertive, they need to knock on doors so that those who are working with different stakeholders, government, NGOs, UN organizations can help them. And I'll finish up by saying that it is our responsibility, all of us as stakeholders, to open the doors when the women are knocking, and also when we see the opportunities for the women to make this available to them so that we can help them achieve what we are proposing. Thank you very much.
For that very powerful message, I'm now going to invite Sok Bensuela to come and make a brief presentation. Sok is going to present a smallholder perspective. Over to you, Sok. Thank you. He's been instrumental in connecting us with Philippine smallholders. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nicola. I have just 3 points. First point is about the increasing role of women in seaweed farming. The second, basically the challenges they face. And finally, some strategic directions we feel must be addressed. First, the increasing role. There's a very recent research done by some of our colleagues that the women farmers are increasingly becoming the dominant species in seaweed farming rather than the men. And in some places, in fact, the men are more relegated now to fishing. You take care of fishing, we take care of the aquaculture seaweed farming. Why? Perhaps because seaweed farming earns 4 times than the average fisher folk earns. And they earn twice beyond poverty level. In terms of the value chain, so the women are more trusted by microcredit institutions. largely because the men are out there monitoring the farms, and they cannot be found to be collected with the credit. So it's the women there, or it's there, so the women become more accessible for credit collectors. So they have more financial power now. Of course, they take care of planting, nursing, and also sometimes they participate in monitoring, but they participate in harvesting and drying seaweeds, and also marketing. Not much is done with regard to value adding, not much. So that's the first thing, increasing role of women, increasing power for women in seaweed aquaculture in the Philippines. We have 200,000 seaweed farmers, like 1 million people. Like 10% of our total fisher folks in the country are in seaweed farming. And we produce like 5% of the total volume in the world. Usually kapapikos, we call it agar or tambalang. So that's the first point. The second point is the challenges they face, so many. Climate change has impacted on there's what they call ice, whitening of this, and then of the seaweeds, and they're falling off. So they earn less when these pests would attack the seaweeds. Then they don't have control over the market, so price fluctuations. And then increasingly, the areas where many of these seaweeds are planted are they are also areas where they have very beautiful beaches. And so they're also affected by, sometimes you have very beautiful beaches, but there's also mine there. So that the tailings, and there's a big tourism business coming. And so as we talk, we're preparing for an active non-violent resistance against the most powerful corporation in the country. It's now in the process of evicting 158 seaweed farmers in a 38-hectare, very beautiful island, southernmost of Palawan. Palawan is considered one of the best or most beautiful provinces in the world. So increasingly, land grabs, business, tourism interests, lording over small fishers, small aquaculturists. So these are the challenges. The third, I must say, the direction. Possibly we need to get the government sensitized on the importance of seaweed. We work with the Land Bank of the Philippines. Not a single centavo has been poured into the credits for the seaweed industry. Perhaps we need a legislation. Perhaps we need a whole of society approach to this, just like what we're doing now. Perhaps we need a national seaweed coalition. But perhaps what we really need most is to help organize the 200,000 seaweed farmers. Most of them are not organized. Therefore, they don't have any voice in public spaces nor bargaining power in the market. And that means some cost. And there's now not much investment there, in terms of capacity building, empowering, organizing. And the most important thing, it's not very important to have them organized. What is very important is to have them professionally organized so that they're able to increase their participation in the entire value chain. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sok. Sok, please join the panel. So, thank you. We've been hearing from our presenters, our panelists, there's a couple of themes that are emerging, the different challenges, be it in developing countries or developed countries, the extraordinary resilience of women in seaweed. I was asked, so now, as I promised, I'm taking off my hat of MC. Nicola Dyer, would you please present the results, the recommendations that you have developed as a result of some work that I'm going to speak of myself now as myself. I was asked by UNCTAD, the United Nations Conference on Trade and Development, to do some work on women in seaweed, and I'm going to very quickly present 7 recommendations that have emerged as a result of that work. So as we know, this is a multifaceted nexus, dealing with the challenges, as Sok has just said, as our panelists have said in various ways. It calls for an integrated approach that recognizes seaweed's importance for women and vice versa, the importance of women for seaweed, especially women smallholders. That number is striking, 200,000 seaweed producers in the Philippines alone. This is a power that is really important. So especially women smallholders in developing countries and marginalized coastal communities. Here are the 7 recommendations. Number 1, incorporate the seaweed sector into national development and marine spatial planning, and integrate women explicitly into that planning. And by that, we mean disaggregating seaweed data by gender, including labor statistics, because it's not happening right now. So we need employment disaggregated by gender, and we need to systematically carry out gendered analysis. On the production side, we need to promote and support integrated multi-trophic aquaculture to allow for diversification of livelihoods, as well as to improve quality and environmental sustainability. On the policy front, much is needed in reviewing regulations and policies, including taxation, because we want to ensure that taxation actually incentivizes women's joining the formal sector. If seaweed isn't counted explicitly, then women may not join the sector because they don't have an interest in doing so. It could penalize them, in fact. Finally, phasing out subsidies to terrestrial crops that generate poor nutritional and climate outcomes could free up resources that could help to better support the seaweed sector and help accelerate its positive impacts on women, on their health, and their livelihoods. 2, incentivize and strengthens women's agency throughout the value chain, as Sok was calling for, and as Flower has also emphasized, and as Runa has emphasized. And in other ways, we're not seeing Karen in the room, but Karen is still online, we hope. So investing in mechanisms for women producers to organize could help women throughout the value chain to better access finance, technical support, and risk mitigation products, could help to strengthen their negotiation power and have more secure marine tenure rights. Reliable and equal internet access is vital. 3, recognize the connection between seaweed, women, and nutrition. So, focus on promoting national nutritional education programs that present separately for women, men, and children the potential benefits and risks of consuming seaweed, and on improving the dietary knowledge of food decision makers who are so often women, especially those with low dietary intake of seaweed, which outside of Asia, I think the answer is many. 4, tailor training to women's needs. Flower was speaking of this. Specifically, strengthen the technical content and cover basic safety, swimming, and first aid. 5, assure women's safety in the sector. That means ensuring women have access to proper sanitary facilities, including toilets and showers. It also means encouraging adoption of relevant safety and social responsibility standards. 6, deal with sargassum blooms. They disproportionately impact women. And that would involve tackling the root cause, which is primarily terrestrial runoff. Finally, 7, create a global research consortium on seaweed that incorporates gender from the outset. That could contribute to improving gender disaggregated seaweed data quality and availability, and support networking opportunities for women scientists. Thank you, Nicola. Back over to you, Nicola, the MC. So now to our panel. To our panel. I think because of time, I promised 2 questions, but I think I'm only going to take 1 question. So Azadine, it is up to you to choose the question. And the question that we're going to pose to all of the panelists at this point. Karen is back online. We see you in the room, Karen. So Azadine, what is the question that is going to happen? No questions online, therefore, do we have questions from the room? Please raise your hand if you have a question, and Azadine will pass the mic to you. And if not, what I'll do, as you're thinking about your question, let me ask all of you panelists. We'll start with Flower. We'll go to Flower, Runa, Sok, and then Karen. What resonated with you from each other's presentations? What point? So maybe just a quick, what points did you pick up from each other's presentations? Flower, what most resonated with you?
Thank you. What I picked is that there is a similarity between the farmers in these different countries, and that if we as stakeholders can help this, it means that the women will be resilient not only in one country, but in all countries combined.
Thank you. Runa.
I think from what I heard and from my experience is that we need to support women farmers in the seaweed sector, because at the end of the day, they do the equal amount of work, or probably even more than what the men do when it comes to fishing and even the seaweed, because they take care of homes, they take care of, harvesting the seaweed, and they also are in the market selling fish and doing the other things. So we need the support for them.
Sok.
Mine is the importance of value addition from the experience of Flower, and very excited to know more about the Decide thing, and I'm very excited to see all these possibilities that are not known to many of our seaweed farmers in the country. They only know how to produce dry, and that's it. They don't know what happened after to these products.
So there may be scope for extending the action of the Global Seaweed Coalition in some way, shape, or form, as you are a member of our Strategic Advisory Council, and Flower, you're a member of our Scientific Council, that perhaps we can talk about how the councils might focus on smallholders. Karen, as you were listening to the presentations, what most resonated with you?
Oh, I think it's great to hear that we're all marching in the same direction and looking to achieve the same thing with the ensuring the empowerment of and economic independence of the seaweed farmers. But I think it's also, again, I agree with Sok, the value add. And that's what we're looking to do, is to really maximize the value of the whole seaweed plant so that we can get the payback back to the farmers.
All right, thank you. Azadine, do we now have any questions? All right. Please ask your question quickly. The quicker it is, the more answer we get. Is this working? Not yet. Mic, please. Handheld.
Okay, I'm going to go.
And I can repeat it for the people online, so go ahead.
It's just more a comment or a question, actually, but we have been doing some disaggregated by gender studies in the last 2 years. I'm working in Cargill for the Red Seaweed Promise, which is our program, our sustainability program. And something that strikes me is that there is a lot of hype about that many women working on seaweed. And for some of them, actually, when you really look at what is going on, is kind of a lack of opportunity that has put them on the seaweed sector. And for some of them, we can almost feel that they feel like trapped, because you were mentioning lack of investment, lack of support from the government, and things like that. So just a comment to be cautious when you are studying and looking really at what is going on. For some of them, they really need support if we want them to let them in this situation. Just a comment.
Okay, well, that was a comment. Does anybody want to quickly respond from our panel? This is going to be the only time that we get to do it. So, Sok, it looks like you want to respond.
I think it's very important to be very gender sensitive in our interventions. That's why all this gender analysis, this aggregation of roles played by women and men, it's very important for community organizers, for government officials conducting training courses, for example. At this point, it's very much, the women are very much disadvantaged. They always call for seminars and information dissemination, the men.
Thank you, Sok. So we don't have time because, as you know, we ended up starting late, so we're trying to catch up on some of the time. What we will do is, if there are any more questions about this segment, please do send them to us, and what we're going to do is prepare a post-annual meeting and post-summit, because you may be aware, we're also doing the first EU Algae Awareness Summit later on in the day. So there is an opportunity to have your questions responded to. I really want to thank our panelists and for the thoughtful interventions, also for coming from far, for joining us. We do wish, Karen, that you'd been able to join us, but we know that at the last minute you weren't able to. But really, a huge round of applause to our panelists. Thank you very much. And we will continue on this agenda of Seaweed and Women because as the panelists, including Nicola, have underlined, the gendered analysis is really important. What gets measured, gets counted, gets policy, etc. If we're not separating out the data by gender, if we don't know what we're talking about, so please support that, that recommendation and that issue. Thank you so much, panelists. Now, we have a break of 20 minutes that's basically to network, to do what you need to do. For those in the room, you may already have figured out where the bathrooms are, just in case you haven't. When you go out the room here, you turn to the right, there are some bathrooms. There's also a small bathroom over to the left. There's also, there's already some displays. Please check out the displays, but please be back in this room in 20 minutes, and that means at 10:54, so actually 10:53, because I want to get us back on time as much as possible, and then we will start with the Celebrating Our Members segment. Thank you very much. See you soon. Thank you very much. Thanks so much to those of you who've already come in on time. Thank you to those of you online who've been so patiently waiting as we shepherd people back in. Welcome back to our second annual meeting and our first annual meeting from this beautiful venue in the Maison de l'Océan. We're now turning to the segment celebrating our members, and you may see some people walking by. I'm going to ask the people in the room to please be quiet as we do this. So I know you've got some interesting chats going on. Please take those chats offline. So, as Azadine and others and Adrien have explained, we're member-driven. So, we want to celebrate our members, and this segment is going to be a combination of in-person presentations and videos. So, we are going to start with a pre-recorded video from the one of the members of our it's a little distracting with people walking past me, so I'm going to ask that when people are coming in after the sessions have started, please do come in the back. Don't know how we can make sure that happens. We're going to hear from Isabelle Véron of Ubuntu. Many of you are familiar with our stakeholder collaboration platform. We're going to have a video from Isabelle that explains what the coalition means to Ubuntu, but more importantly, that explains the stakeholder collaboration platform Ubuntu. Please, the video.
Hello, thank you for having Ubuntu with you today as part of your second annual Global Seaweed Coalition meeting. It's very nice to see how the coalition and the community have grown since the launch 2 years ago, and we are very happy to be your partner since the beginning. I'm Isabelle Véron, working for Ubuntu as a project manager, and I'll introduce you briefly to what we do for institutions and how we do support the coalition in developing a safer seaweed industry. So for institutions, we have developed impact hubs that are online, either public or private micro-platform. They do provide access within the same space to solution and knowledge, as well as opportunity for collaboration and connection between members and stakeholders working within the same industry. The platform we have developed in partnership with the Global Seaweed Coalition is here to help develop worldwide collaboration that can link all the stakeholders working, supporting, or interested in the seaweed industry, to provide more visibility to those working along the seaweed value chains, to help generate increased investment and interest in initiatives that can be scaled up effectively, to promote sustainable seaweed practices, as well as solution and technical and scientific knowledge, and to keep the members informed about the latest news of the industry. So after 2 years, so far, the Global Seaweed Coalition platform features over 400 solutions that do represent organizations working along the seaweed value chain throughout the world. We do provide also a database of knowledge publications that have been highly curated. This includes news articles, academic papers, reports, and more. And we do see the community growing daily. So far, we have over 1,100 members. They do represent people from over 90 countries and from very various backgrounds. The motivation to join the coalition also on the platform is very diverse. Some people are working as a stakeholder within the industry, and they want to connect with others. They appreciate to be featured also, and keep themselves aware of the news of the industry, the regulation, and all the publications that are available. Some people are not yet working within the industry, but they want to know more. And so they are very happy to see who are the stakeholders already working within the space. And we have experts also that want to be featured and as well as expand their knowledge and skills in that space. So if you haven't yet joined the platform and the coalition, I'm going to do a short demo. And for those who know already about the platform, you might still learn new features that you haven't discovered yet. The best way to access is through the Global Seaweed Coalition website. You see here a member access. So you can click here if you are not yet a member and just select member area if you have logged in already. This will take you to the main page of the platform. You see here we have a spotlight section that we update regularly that represent recommendation of upcoming events, solution, and the latest knowledge publication. You can see the different section of solution, knowledge post, and news. You can click on either of them or view all if you want to discover the whole section. We have also the top bar that allows you to go to each section. So here in the Discover page, you have all the solutions listed. You can see as such or within a map. You can search for a specific solution. We have also created filter that will help you in your search. And this applies for solution, but also for the knowledge category. You will see in the Learn section, so all the knowledge posts, we have also a specific section for news and then events. The opportunity for collaboration and connection. Within each page, you can post a comment, ask a question to a company, either by tagging the people that represent the company or tagging other members if you want to share. If you are representing an organization and you would like to be featured as a key contact, let us know. This gives you edit access if you want to update the page, the presentation of your company. You have other opportunity to connect with members, either by going through the directory or through our forum. If you would like to recommend solution companies that are not yet featured, we have a recommend option here. And if you would like to invite other members, you can go on the right side and select invite members. So what would be next? I would say that if you are already a member and you are used to the platform, don't hesitate to explore further regularly. We do send newsletter also every 3 weeks to keep you posted, and we do extract a selection of knowledge that is from the database, but you can explore further. You can share feedback, suggestion also. If you haven't yet explored the platform, please do connect. Go to the website of the Global Seaweed Coalition. You have here the QR code also, if you want to connect while you look at the presentation. And we look forward to having your feedback, comments, suggestion. I thank you very much for your time. Bye.
So, you heard from Isabelle, and now this is a great reference for us and for you as you go out and encourage other people to become members. Please do speak with them about this platform, about how easy it is to use, or if you have feedback on making it easier to use, we welcome that. This was one of our very first deliverables, creating this online collaboration platform. It's terrific to see. Now we're going to go to a different kind of first deliverable, as we were really just getting launched as part of the United Nations Food Systems Summit. We put on an independent online dialogue. And this was during COVID, so it was completely online. And we had the help and support of 5 amazing graduate students who eventually became known as the Seaweed Squad. And one of them, Abigail Anderson, also worked with me on that paper from which I summarized the recommendations. So let's please see a video from Abby Anderson. Thanks.
Greetings, everyone, from Washington, D.C. I'm Abby Anderson, and it is a pleasure and honor to be joining you today at the Global Seaweed Coalition's annual meeting in Paris. I first joined the coalition in 2021 when I was a graduate student at George Washington University. Through my graduate studies, I had the opportunity to work with Nicola and Vincent, who I'm sure most all of you know, on the United Nations Food Systems Summit dialogue on seaweed's transformational role in food systems. Through this experience, I was able to engage and network with a wide range of stakeholders within the coalition and externally in the broader seaweed industry. Not only did I learn about seaweed's role in food systems from all of these folks in the coalition, but also its role in climate mitigation, in nutrition, in sustainable development, and more. Fast forward to 2023, I recently was able to work on a forthcoming paper under the guidance of UNCTAD, and again in collaboration with Nicola, on the seaweed industry and women's development, trade, and food security. Again, through this experience, I was able to interview a wide range of folks along the seaweed value chain who have a broad range of experience and expertise within the industry. Through experiences like these, and through working with the coalition, I'm able to learn more about the sustainable and safe scale-up of the seaweed industry. This community is inclusive and diverse, and that's what I love so much about the Global Seaweed Coalition. I'm thankful and grateful to be a part of the coalition, and I look forward to continuing the good and important work that it'll take to scale up a sustainable and safe seaweed industry. Looking forward to connecting with you all further. Thanks.
Thanks very much to Abby. Look, you see the importance of women and of also young people to this coalition, and folks like Abby and her fellow students, they are very much the future of the seaweed market. That said, speaking of the importance of women, we have somebody with us here in the room who I promise you will be vertical, and she's been with us since the beginning, Lisa Bolton of Purina Nestle, who's a member of our Strategic Advisory Council and a former member of our steering committee. Lisa, what does the coalition mean to you?
Well, thank you, Nicola. As Vincent said earlier, it feels a little bit like a family reunion, except that it's a family where every member of the family is super interesting and has loads that you can learn from and share ideas with, which is quite rare in any family. When I first discovered seaweed, as Adine said, this is not a church, but I feel like I had a bit of a spiritual awakening, to be honest. I'd read the Seaweed Manifesto. I got support from people like Adrienne and Philippe. And I was looking at the time into Nestle's net zero roadmap, thinking, how are we going to get to net zero? So 70% of our emissions overall coming from ingredients. We've got packaging, logistics, and everything else. So I started to dive into the different solutions. And as was mentioned earlier, we're looking at all of them. You can come up with a reason why seaweed is the answer. The Global Seaweed Coalition has helped me to answer many questions. It's given me people to go to whenever questions come up, which they frequently do within Nestle now. If I don't know the answer, then it means that I know somebody who does. There's a great set of resources. But also, it's empowered me with the knowledge to take back into Nestle, to understand where the priorities are, to understand where we need to do the right thing to make sure that we don't repeat any of the same mistakes on land that we do when we go to the ocean. So it's very much a two-way dialogue, and it's also a wonderful resource and a community, and I'm really thrilled to be part of. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Lisa, and we are thrilled that you are part of it. And the importance of the two-way street of learning, learning and sharing the learning, it's really important to us in the coalition. Now, we're going to shift gears. Earlier in the program, I mentioned to you how important our members are and how important your achievements are. And we have a few members who we're going to highlight here. Obviously, we can't highlight everybody and all of your fantastic achievements, but some of them we're aware of some really game-changing achievements. So the first one we're going to hear from is a company in the US called Sea and Flour. Some of you may be familiar. That's flour, F-L-O-U-R, not flour, F-L-O-W-E-R. And they're going to tell us about their game-changing achievement. So over to the video of Sea and Flour, please.
Bonjour, good morning, everyone. Thank you to Global Seaweed Coalition for inviting our Sea and Flour team to say hello and share a little bit of our work with you. I'm Penelope Wasserman. I'm the president and co-founder of Sea and Flour Baked Goods. We're based in the United States in Philadelphia, and I'm here with the rest of my team, my partner and husband in life, Arlen Wasserman, and Mike Faraday, our wonderful CFO.
So we're also thrilled that just a couple months ago we were awarded our first patent for processing seaweed to use in baked goods. When we began this journey during COVID, we were working to figure out how to get people to eat more seaweed. And the obvious solution is to put it in one of the most commonly eaten and popular foods, bread. We eat 600 million slices a day here in the United States. But what we found was the conventional ways to process seaweed both removed some of the nutrients and also made seaweed not work in commercial or high volume baking operations. We didn't want the bread to turn green or mushy. So over the last year, we worked to develop a process, over the last 2 years, we worked to develop a process for handling seaweed once it comes out of the water to the point where it will work in high volume commercial bakeries. And we're thrilled with the results and the delicious breads we produce.
And then even more exciting, we're right on the verge of launching at our first retail customer, which is Royal Ahold, their giant division here in Philadelphia. And so we have a wonderful bakery partner. The formulations and the test runs are done. Our packaging is almost complete, and we'll be launching within the next month, again in the Philadelphia area. So very exciting.
And I think our biggest hope is to prove that we scale this out and show that it's a viable and productive economic opportunity. So once we're successful here in the US, we want to take this global. So this involves everyone, or a lot of you with Global Seaweed, and we're hoping to really share this around the world. So thank you so much. We wish we could have been there in person, but hey, hit us up.
So thanks so much to Sea and Flour for sharing that. Some of you may have tasted their bread last year in Lisbon if you were there. The seaweed bread was there, and now they've got a patent for this. So this is a game changer. We're now going to turn to another video. Michael Roletta from the Philippines, one of our funded projects, is going to share what their project is and why it's a game changer. Over to the video, please.
Their project, Selection and Curation of Safe and Healthy Eukymatoid Seedlings for the Future, or Secure Future, was able to produce new seed stocks from spores. This method has the potential to improve adaptability, disease resistance, and overall growth performance. The sporelings' growth performance were tested under a recirculation system built by the C6 Energy Private Limited. This is part of device development for assisting in strain development of eukymatoids. This project was also able to generate and identify new indigenous cultivars for biobanking and distribution to seaweed farmers. 20 tetrasporophytes and 12 gametophytes exhibited a growth rate of 3.37% to 11.56%. We were also able to characterize carrageenan yield and quality of the highest performing new cultivars. Among the novel strains sent, the GN7 strain yielded the most carrageenan using the alkaline extraction. From the establishment of the gene bank in 2001, a total of 289 eukymatoids were maintained. 203 were molecularly verified, of which 169 are Capaphycus ovarezii. New collections from the wild were also maintained in the UP-MSI gene bank. Strains with high growth performance in the hatchery were outplanted in the sea with the help of our partner NGO, the Coast 4C and its network of farmers, and LGU of San Vicente, Ilocos Sur. Lastly, the Marine Science Institute Algal Ecophysiology Laboratory, together with the Coast 4C, trained seaweed farmers to build a more resilient seaweed farming future. Among the topics emphasized were the use of more sustainable seaweed planting materials and practices, and identification of seaweed's diseases and pests, which resulted to the production of a planting calendar. The success of this project was all thanks to the Global Seaweed Coalition, as well as the members of the Algal Ecophysiology Laboratory.
So thanks to Michael Roletta and all that team. Look at that energy, that positive energy. I think we need to know what this symbol means. Let's now turn to somebody in the room, Jessica Knoop. Jessica is going to present the European H2020 project, United. Jessica.
Yeah, thank you very much. Hello, good morning, everybody, to the persons here in the room and also to the persons online. It is my pleasure today to represent the United project and to give a quick update here. Unfortunately, 2 minutes are a very brief time, so let's dive into the United project. Is Horizon 2020 funded project, and it aims to enhance multi-use activities in offshore platforms. And we are doing this by the installation of 5 real-world demonstration pilots that have been installed throughout Europe. We had a pilot in Denmark, in Germany, in the Netherlands, in Belgium, and also in Greece. And each of these pilots, they're addressing a specific combination of multi-use activities. And today I would highlight, or I want to highlight the Belgian pilot, where we combined the cultivation of seaweeds as well as European flat oysters with the restoration of native oyster reefs within offshore wind parks. So we have done this over the last 3 years by optimizing the seeding and technical cultivation techniques to grow seaweeds, especially Saccharina latissima, within an offshore environment. And over the 3 years, we learned a lot of lessons that, I'm happy to talk about later. Please come and find me. And our highlight from the last year is that we had the first growth cycle in our offshore test farm, which is situated 46 kilometers off the Belgian coastline within an operating wind park. So we're very happy about that achievement. And if you have any further questions, please come and talk to me later. Thank you.
Thank you, Jessica. And the linkages between seaweed and energy, either as bioenergy, but in this case, wind energy, and the role of seaweed in that, just terrific, game-changing. We're going to go to another video now. And again, you're going to see Karen again from Oceanium. This time, she's going to describe their project, why it's game-changing. So please, let's go over to Karen's pre-recorded video.
Hello, everybody. I am Karen Schofield-Seal. I am the CEO and co-founder of Oceanium. And at Oceanium, we develop innovative seaweed ingredients for people health and planet health. We have want to jumpstart the seaweed farming industry here in the EU and the Western Hemisphere. So we have developed a leading proprietary seaweed refinery technology, which breaks the seaweed down into its component parts. And the sum of those parts is of greater value than the whole, and maximizing the value of the whole seaweed. So we purchase seaweed from the seaweed farmers, we bring it into our facility using our proprietary technology. We break it down into products including ocean health, fiber, and protein for food ingredients, ocean actives, picoidin and beta-glucan, robust bioactives for health and cosmetic and skincare, and the ocean base, our Oceanium materials feedstock. We have targeted this portfolio of products because they are in high growth markets and are of medium to high value. We really want to jumpstart the seaweed farming industry and make the market. So we're creating these ingredients that can be dropped in, whether it's plant-based food ingredient, cosmetics, or materials. In terms of accomplishments this year, I'm really pleased to say that we have produced at scale these products. So we've scaled up our process to 75 tons. So a large pilot scale, and have produced high quality, high value functional food ingredients, the bioactives, ocean actives, and the Oceanium materials. We have developed an Ocean Ink, which is ready for market as well. We have also completed a successful fundraise of $2.6 million. We have grants in progress, 2 EU grants in progress, and we are planning for Series A. And as you can see, we have a fantastic group of impact investors and grant funders. We have also been developing our supply chain. We have purchased 150 tons of seaweed. We have a database of over 100 plus farmers in North America and Europe. We've developed our seaweed supplier packs and food safety standards, and have sourced and visited from 5 EU countries. We've been featured in leading publications, and we have published our impact report. And this is something, we are an impact business. We are very focused on our objectives for the 6 SDGs that we are targeting. and we will report and measure and report on our impact. So that's Oceanium in a nutshell. I'm sorry I can't be with you there today. We are focusing on commercializing these products so we can get our demo facility, which will process 5,000 tons of seaweed, up and running and purchase significant amounts of European farmed seaweed. Thank you.
Thanks, Karen. Online recorded, Karen. If any of you have seen their seaweed ink, do check it out. It's really wonderful, and so many products. Time to turn to someone in the room again, Kella, who is Ms. Kella Feller, who is the Communications and Partnerships Manager. Come on up while I introduce you. At Bizios, I'm never sure how to pronounce your company's name today. Very good. Which is a green tech company pioneering seaweed-based packaging solutions. Please.
Hello, thank you so much for having me here today. I'm so happy to be among so many other seaweed enthusiasts and present on behalf of Bizios, and also putting some faces to names of people I've been emailing with. So a little bit about me. I'm the Communications and Partnerships Manager at Bizios. I have a background in environmental studies and international business administration. And I am passionate about implementing nature-driven solutions, specifically seaweed, into business contexts and finding solutions that move the needle towards a more regenerative and circular future. So now about Bizios. Since 2018, Bizios has been at the forefront of developing sustainable alternatives to plastic packaging based on seaweed. And today, Bizios focuses on the foundation of all packaging, which comes in the form of small pellets or granulates. So currently we offer a diverse range of pellet grades that can be transformed into versatile products such as flexible films, thermoformable trays, and rigid items. These pellets are manufactured using advanced extrusion technologies and follow a plug-and-play approach, meaning that our technology seamlessly integrates within existing machinery across the industry, allowing our solution to be directly implemented into the current plastic manufacturing supply chain. Recently, our team has been focusing on validating various pellet formulations tailored to specific end applications. Our approach places an emphasis on increasing throughput and improving processing efficiency. Regarding the seaweed biomass, we are agnostic and do not limit our range to just one species. We utilize various species such as brown, red, and invasive. For several years, Bizios has been actively engaged in working with low-refined seaweed extracts. We utilize biopolymers from invasive species like sargassum and maintain a closed-loop system to revalorize seaweed that is normally discarded. And this unique approach gives us a competitive advantage and enhances the cost efficiency of our solution as we prioritize sustainability. And I'm wrapping it up, sorry. Regarding our collaboration with the coalition, Bizios worked on the Mark CPAC project, which was focused on commercializing seaweed packaging with a focus on legal and regulatory aspects. During the project, we analyzed the status of seaweed bioplastics within the Single-Use Plastics Directive, performed migration tests, and conducted suitable application tests for various applications. Bizios is incredibly grateful to be part of this fantastic coalition and have the support to scale out the next generation of packaging inspired by the oceans. I invite you all to look at our most recent prototypes showcased here. Thank you again for your attention.
Thanks, Kella. And if anybody wants to know more, now you've put a name to a face and a face to a name. So please do exchange with each other. Moving to another pre-recorded video. This time we're going to hear from Joe Lane and Warren Atkins of Sea Health. They're pioneering kelp farming aquaculture in Australia by unlocking the breeding requirements of an important kelp species, Eclonia radiata. Video, please. Wasn't that just beautiful? Just lovely. So really want to thank Sea Health for sharing that video with us. And we're going to keep going around the world now. We're going to go to Faik Im Lim, who is actually a member also of our scientific council. And she really wanted to be with us. Unfortunately, she's ill. But she found the time and the ability to record a video anyway. So please give Faik Im a special round of applause for doing this. And we're turning to her video.
Warm greeting to all. Gateway is about 2 steps that are needed for long-term survival of the red eukymatoid seaweed industry. Eukymatoid seaweed are a major aquaculture crop grown for the collagen that is used in many everyday food and industry processes. Production is centered on Southeast Asia, where the crop provides livelihood of estimated of more than 300,000 families. Demand for carrageenan is growing, but eukymatoid crops are increasing beset by pests and diseases. This has come about because the reliance on a handful of clonal cultivar with a diminishing gene pool over the last 50 years and exacerbated by environmental impact, particularly increasing seawater temperature. Another problem that these cultivars go under a variety of different names which may vary between region or country. For example, the same name might be used in more than one country for what is being cultivated but might not be the same species in different countries. For the eukymatoid industry to survive and thrive long-term, it is urgent to find and develop new climate and disease-resilient cultivar, and there must be a stable naming system which can be linked to taxonomic identity of a cultivar. Each new cultivar needs an accepted universal name while retaining and respecting the local name of the stakeholder. Through Gateway, we have established a scientifically robust taxonomy of the eukymatoid seaweed. This framework is key to characterizing and harnessing the high genetic diversity of this red algae, specifically in Southeast Asia. This will drive the development of new cultivars to replace the current one, which have been vegetatively propagated for half a century. Also, for the first time, we have developed a framework that allows the standardized naming of cultivated seaweed based on the International Commission of the Nomenclature of Cultivated Plants. With the excellent guidance of Dr. John David, the Commission of Chair, we now have a mechanism whereby the eukymatoid committee can unify the name of cultivar, strain, variety, and other seaweed types in both the eukymatoid and seaweed more broadly. This project is being written out for publication, and the outcome will be disseminated at the forthcoming meeting with the aim of bringing the seaweed aquaculture industry on board. Thank you.
Thanks very much to Faik Im. This is such an important contribution to the science to develop the taxonomic framework. So congratulations to the project, and we're proud to be supporting that work. And again, we wish you, Faik Im, better health very soon. Now we're going to turn once again to the room, and I invite Ayla de Henny. I didn't get a chance to check pronunciation with you, from Notpla. You will tell us about what your project is and why it's a game changer.
$189 million tons of single-use plastic will be disposed of by the end of this year. We find it completely illogical that so much plastic like this spends minutes in our hands, but then persists on the planet for hundreds of years afterwards. Notpla is inspired by nature, where packaging only lasts as long as it is useful. So our mission is to make packaging disappear. To do this, we use algae. And I'm definitely preaching to the choir here in saying that seaweed has a huge potential for positive social and ecosystem services, as well as providing us with our feedstock. We use a whole range of different algal species to make our portfolio of products. We use the extracts as well as the fibrous fractions to make use of the whole biomass so there is no waste. From our edible liquid bubbles, which went viral in 2017, we call them OHOs, to our coated board takeaway boxes, which are now being sold across Europe with our commercial partner Just Eat, to our soluble sachets, our edible oil pipettes, toothpaste pearls, seaweed paper, rigid material cosmetic boxes. We really are shaking up the packaging space. Our materials are designed to run on existing packaging machinery, and where the technology is completely new, we also design the machines to make our materials as well. Finally, Nopla is a true solution. We do not use any chemical modification, so we are outside of the plastic definition from the EU. Also, all of our materials are completely home compostable. So why is Nopla a game changer? Well, it's because we are truly making a future that is not plastic, not pla. Thank you so much for having us. It's a real honor to be here, and come check out our stand. Come and say hello.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. You know, there was just so much excitement when Notpla won the Earthshot Prize. It's really, let's give them another round of applause, because that brought seaweed so visibly onto the world stage. So congratulations to Notpla. And we have one final in-person presentation. So it's not somebody I know. So Jean-Pierre Renaud, I do hope you have arrived. This is terrific. President of Brittany Seaweed Cluster. You're going to be acting through your company Azolai, and the Brittany Association, the cluster, Le Cluster Algue, for a high-scale and sustainable seaweed supply chain. Monsieur Renaud, please.
So thank you very much to welcome us. Just want to tell you that Azolai has been inspired by our experience in agriculture. We have two main and two strong beliefs. The first one is economical development will come from healthy ecosystem. From a healthy ecosystem, you will have healthy people and healthy territory. And the second belief for us is impact, and impact will be operative as soon as we are working first with the whole components around the producers to make sure that it will happen. And this implementation will be effective if we are able to aggregate all these people around the producers. So because of the impact of seaweed, and because of the evolution of the economic equation also for the seaweed, we have launched this society in the same way. And what does it mean, aggregation, for us for seaweed? First of all, that means that we have to provide specific governance for each project to make sure that the people locally, territory, are involved in the project. The second one is to provide the right science, I would say, to have the most efficient way of proceeding. Third, it's necessary also to have the right combination between finance, public finance, and private offtake to make sure that we are on the way to operate. And the last and not the least, don't forget that this kind of project will not only sea project, but also continent project, because as soon as you will implement high-scale project, high-scale is not a slang word, I would say, and you will be in the situation to extract biomass at a high level, and for that reason, it will be also necessary to implement this project on the continent as soon as in the sea. So that's the way we are now launching the first project in Brittany at high-scale level, I would say. And I'm very proud to be here to participate on the Seaweed Coalition. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Monsieur Renaud. Continent-level game-changing. So this is closing out our segment on celebrating our members and celebrating our members' achievements. And I just want to underscore that this is just a small selection. We know that you're out there on the front lines, game-changing for seaweed, and we would like to hear from you. We would welcome hearing about your achievements. So please do write to us. We can share your accomplishments on our website. We can program you into future events. And in the meantime, because we know that you also want to network, and there were several of you who reached out to us, and we had to prioritize it. We're so sorry. But we wanted to make sure that you also had an opportunity to engage with members. So please, we did set up, if you haven't already seen it, there is a booth. This is for the people in the room. People online, please find ways to engage by tweeting, by connecting with us on the website and all of the various measures that Azadine has spoken about to you earlier. When it comes to here in the conference, there is a networking booth. So we would invite those of you who haven't yet had a chance to share your accomplishments, please go to the Global Seaweed Coalition networking booth and be there and share your experiences with colleagues. And colleagues, please do go to the networking booth because there are some people who still would like to share. With that, shifting gears now, the seaweed market. It concerns all of us. And we have foreseen a pretty strong session here on the seaweed market, the future of the seaweed market. We're going to start out with a couple of presentations on two important reports that have been produced in the last year. The first one we're going to hear from Carlotta Riva of Hatch Blue. She couldn't be with us here today. We've been talking about this with her for nigh on a year, and unfortunately she couldn't make it today, but she has taken the opportunity to prepare a video presentation of Hatch Blue's report on the future of the seaweed market. So could we please go to Carlotta Riva's recorded video? Thank you.
Hi there, this is Carlotta Riva from Hatch Blue. I'm very, very sorry to be missing out this annual meeting of the Global Seaweed Coalition and the opportunity to meet so many familiar faces and seaweed enthusiasts. But I was nevertheless asked to share some of our key takeaways of the recent report that was published by the World Bank Group. So I'll just try to do that in the next 5 minutes. But just quickly before we dive into that, I just want to highlight for some of you who may not be aware, our Seaweed Insights website, where we have summarized quite in-depth data collection on how seaweed is farmed in the main seaweed producing regions globally, which is, well, maybe Asia. But there's a quite good step-by-step overview of the different steps and parameters, and just gives some really good understanding of how the main seaweed supply chains currently look like based on those different species groups that currently make up 97% of the global production. And that has already given us a good foundation for then conducting our research on these new and emerging markets for seaweed. We are lucky enough that this was a work commissioned by the World Bank Group. It has now been published, and the QR code here brings you directly to the report. So here the main objective was really to understand where demand could be coming from in the next years. That is not these primary markets such as hydrocolloids or the food and the aquaculture feed, mainly abalone. So we looked at these 10 markets. There was a prioritization exercise to narrow us down on these 10 applications, and then we interviewed more than 130 stakeholders, and definitely some of them would be here in the room with you also. So a huge thank you to everyone who spared the time for this research. Fast forward, this was basically the output of it. So here we highlight all these 10 applications that we've conducted a deep dive on in one graph. And this mainly shows the predicted market size by 2030. This is a value that we established based on a market forecasting exercise. And without getting too technical here, how we derived this, we assessed first and foremost the value proposition of seaweed-based products in the particular market, the competitive pressure from alternative products, and the presence of challenges, and also the likelihoods of these challenges to be overcome. That gives us that value. Then you also here see the probability of market establishment on the y-axis, which is what we mean having meaningful market share. You see fabrics, bioplastics, and construction rank fairly low here, despite us hearing more and more companies now coming up with innovative biomaterials based on seaweed, which are honestly really promising materials, and it's great to see that momentum. But we do see significant challenges here, especially when it comes to the volume availability of seaweed. And then we categorized also seaweed markets by short, long, and short, medium, and long term. On the x-axis or by color, you can see here the most promising short-term markets for farmed seaweed are the biostimulants, the animal feed additives, and also pet food. So this is just, again, based on these 10s that we've analyzed. Of course, there's still the conventional markets to take into account, and then also others that were not part of this research, such as cosmetics, for example. But getting back to these 3 that we highlighted here as most promising short-term opportunities, the reason for that is that they already show quite a competitive value proposition, the seaweed-based products here, and these are generally high growth markets also. And seaweed-based products have competitive prices already, and they present a relatively low processing complexity compared to other applications. So again, much could be said about each of these markets here, but I'll advise you, if you're interested in diving deeper into these individual chapters. The overall report, I think, is now over 160 pages, so I think when you're interested in learning about the main drivers, the challenges, the regulatory landscape for each of these applications, you will definitely find some answers there. So this last slide is just to summarize some important additional key findings from this study. So they basically apply to all of these markets and can serve as a good summary and important considerations. So a major challenge across all these markets is the availability of seaweed due to current limitations in volumes, consistency, the quality also of the supply, and there's also always a correlation with the price. So the more the application competes with commodity or commodity-derived products such as plastics or construction materials, the higher is the challenges of developing competitive price levels for seaweed here. And then many interviews suggested that the biorefinery development present opportunities to obtain an economically feasible process by deriving several products from a single input of seaweed. Lack of data is something we've seen across the applications, and also actually especially for the ecosystem services side of things, we just don't really have yet a robust monitoring, reporting, and verification methods or technologies that can actually, provide us with relevant data that give us evidence for the sustainability and impact claims of seaweed. And then, of course, regulations will play a significant role in the trajectory of the markets assessed and to be analyzed on an individual basis. I think this will be a big topic here at this summit the next couple of days in Paris, which is really, really exciting to follow. And last but not least, we also want to note that the competition between the seaweed-based market applications that are based on the same compounds is to be expected. So producers will obviously rather switch to a higher value market once accessible, which will then reduce the size of the previously established market. So all these values that you could see on the previous graph will have to consider and factor that in, that there will be cannibalization or competition from other markets. And also the conventional markets, again, are still growing, such as hydrocolloids. And we do see that the global production is not growing at the same rate. So we are expecting a lot of competition around raw material supply, especially as we want to see these new and emerging market opportunities develop. Thank you so much for your attention, and I do hope you have a really, really pleasant meeting and the next few days. I'll be in Paris on Saturday, joining the the summit also. So hopefully I'll get to meet some of you. Thank you.
Thanks very much to Carlotta for recording that video, and also we're really pleased to see the engagement of the World Bank Group. Some of you may have seen the series of webinars in which that report was developed, and if you haven't, you really may want to go online to look at the recordings, because it's a terrific series of webinars, and we're proud to have contributed to the shaping, preparation, delivery of those webinars as well. So now I'm very pleased to welcome our colleague and friend Tiffany Waters, who is joining us at some rather early hour for herself, I believe. Thank you so much for getting up early, Tiffany. This is the other really important report that we wanted to share. The Nature Conservancy, in collaboration with Bain & Company, have also produced a report, and we're going to turn this over now to Tiffany to share the major conclusions of this report. Over to you, Tiffany, who's going to be presenting live, but from a distance. Thanks.
Thank you so much. I'm really happy to be here. Talking to you guys today about seaweed markets. Next slide. For those of you not familiar, the Nature Conservancy has a global priority and strategy on aquaculture. And we're particularly interested in what we call restorative aquaculture, which occurs when commercial or subsistence aquaculture provides direct ecological benefits to the environment with even the potential for net positive environmental outcomes. So seaweed aquaculture, when farmed well, is such a restorative crop. I work with our country teams around the globe to help support women, fishing communities, and farmers to improve their farming practices. However, in many geographies, particularly geographies new to seaweed, one of the largest barriers to scaling this industry is markets. Next slide, please. So due to the interest in seaweed, I'll go to the next slide. Due to the interest in seaweed as a potential nature-based solution to climate change and the market challenges that seaweed faces, TNC and Bain & Company conducted a deep dive analysis on how to support significant near-term growth in seaweed farming over the next 5 to 10 years, with special attention to carbon crediting and novel markets. And we'll go to the next slide. Important background to this is that the science of seaweed farming of carbon sequestration is very new and still emerging. And we're going to go to the next slide. I'm going to keep pushing through these. However, we felt that this was really the right time to do this type of analysis, as there was a recent study that most of you have likely read, the first of its kind from Oceans 2050 and Duarte, that sampled sediment below 21 seaweed farms globally. It confirmed that seaweed farms can and often do sequester carbon in the sediment below farms, while the sequestration rates they found varied. This still provided us a range, 0 to 8 tons of carbon per hectare of sequestration for us to work with and place into an economic model. So if you want to go to the next slide. For those of you that are not deeply familiar with carbon crediting schemes, the sequestration rate is really just a starting point within the formula. Net project credits must account for issues like additionality, uncertainties, and emissions from project activities. So taking all of these issues into consideration and using the higher end of observed values for sequestration, next slide, we actually found that the expected financial benefits of carbon credits would be relatively low. We conducted quite a bit of sensitivity analysis around this, and what we found is that for carbon crediting to be economically meaningful to a farmer, carbon prices would most likely need to approach much higher amounts, $300 to $500 per ton, or there need to be new scientific data that reduced uncertainties or show higher sequestration rates. Next slide. So what we determined is that we're going to continue to support carbon sequestration research. It's incredibly important. We're monitoring the evolving science, but TNC ourselves are not going to be establishing a carbon crediting assistance program for our farmers at this time. So moving on to the second half of the analysis and the report, next slide. We focused on what markets we thought could realistically help seaweed aquaculture scale over the next 5 to 10 years. And what we found, I think not too unsimilar to World Bank and to Hatch, that bioplastics and agricultural applications ranked pretty high. And this was due to proven use cases, feasibility, and market size. So these are the two that we really focused on. And next slide, I'm going to be just providing a really brief overview of the seaweed biostimulants market. So biostimulants are an agricultural product that has been shown to enhance plant growth, improve nutrient uptake and soil quality. Next slide. And this is an existing market for seaweeds right now that's valued at about $1 billion. It's expected to grow rapidly. It's important to note that the majority of seaweed biostimulants today are made from wild harvested seaweeds, which, given the growth expected in this market, could actually have negative ecological outcomes if this market continues to be served by wild rather than farmed. Next slide. So taking current projections of 500,000 to 1 million tons of seaweed that will be needed to serve biostimulants by 2027, this seaweed volume could actually help seed nascent seaweed markets in new geographies if farm seaweeds are used. Next slide. And additional benefits beyond plant growth and soil. Okay, sounds good. Some studies are showing that seaweed can generate fewer carbon emissions per application as well. But it's not all sunshine and roses. There's actually a price gap that needs to be addressed. So if you go to the next slide, we're showing that the prices right now are lower than would be attractive to farmers. So we have some suggestions of the report about how we might be able to close that price gap. And then finishing up in terms of the end, our conclusion really in the next slide is that all stakeholders and partners have a role to play here, and carbon sequestration, very important service that seaweed can provide, but emissions avoided via products, we think should be given as much, if not more, attention for its role as a climate change mitigation solution. And thanks everybody so much.
Thank you very much, Tiffany. And Tiffany is not going away. We're going to hear from her with like half of the closing that you were going to get, Tiffany, because of the time. We're very pleased, by the way, to welcome the Nature Conservancy to our Strategic Advisory Council. Robert Jones has kindly accepted our invitation, so we're really delighted about that. Now it's time for me to welcome a couple of panelists on stage, as well as one person who will be joining us remotely. So could I ask, and some of them will be familiar faces, so Sok and Lisa, could you please come back? I'd like to also introduce Frank Enkar of Algae. You've had a chance to see the reports. You've had a chance to see these presentations. So what we would like to hear from you, first of all, and give Sok a chance to get over to his seat. And do we have Kevin Madley online? Okay, so we will not hear the regulatory perspective, which is unfortunate, because we did want to ensure that we had really an across the value chain and across stakeholders perspective. But let me take each of you in turn, starting from Lisa. Having seen the reports and the presentations, what are your key takeaways, or what resonates most with you?
Thank you. First of all, can I just say that both of the reports are super helpful for getting the message across internally with an organization like Nestle. Not everybody enjoys reading all of the detailed research papers as much as I do, so to be able to have something that gives that full view of where we are and that real solid analysis behind the scenes that can be shared with the executive summaries across the board is incredibly useful. I was very happy to see biostimulants being up there at the top in both reports, being as that's what I spend a lot of my time day-to-day doing at the moment. You may have seen earlier this year that Nestle Purina launched the field trials and postdoc research around the use of biostimulants within regenerative agriculture. So I'm spending quite a lot of my time then following up on those trials. I think the key message that came across in both the reports, first of all, on the displacement element. While there is, of course, a lot of interest in the carbon credit side of things, the most valuable direction for seaweed in general is the displacement value. So whether we're talking about ingredients, fertilizers, bioplastics, etc., it's really about having the information to be able to show the potential to replace existing higher carbon or more environmentally impactful ingredients or materials with a much more environmentally friendly option. For that, we need the data, we need the science, so we absolutely need to support that across the board. And we need, as been mentioned quite a few times, We absolutely need all players across the value chain to be involved. Everybody has a role to play, and we very much see our role as well in incentivizing that.
Thank you, Lisa. And now we're going to turn to Franck.
Thanks, Nicola. Well, I have to say as well that I was really impressed by the quality of the report, and it's very important to say this, and they are very, very heavy to digest, but very, very nice work. And I think I'm going to reach pretty much the same comments than Lisa on the key points. Of course, I was pleased to see that biostimulant in both reports are coming out as the closest way to develop activities from seaweed. We in Algaia have already started to do that as we are biorefining our hydrocolloid alginate production byproducts to produce biostimulant. And of course, we can only agree on this statement. One thing very important is the stakeholders and the interest to involve all the stakeholders in the development of those new products. Why I'm saying that is because we tend to work as clusters, as silos, and I think and the people around in the room and around during the 2 days are very important, because we need to integrate our knowledge, our processors, our market assessors, to researchers that also have new tools to maybe induce some specific seaweed into key compounds. Because if I take the biostimulant example, not every seaweed is good for to be used as a biostimulant, so you need to pick the right source, and you need to make sure that you're processing the way it is necessary to get to a biostimulant. So it's very important to involve everybody, and I think in the reports it was well highlighted that the integration of all the stakeholders is a key element.
Terrific message. I think that leads right into SOC.
The key takeaway for me from this report is it's basically an affirmation of what we're doing. The importance of building professional agri-cooperatives of seaweed farmers. Only when we have professionalized agri-cooperatives or seaweed farmers can we be able to increase their participation in the entire value chain. For every $7 or euros produced from or generated from seaweeds, only one of that, $1 will go to the producer. Can we make it 2 or 3 or 4? So that we'll be able to democratize the wealth that comes out of this of this product. So that's the key. But we can only do that, increase their chance to benefit more and to participate in the entire value chain, if we are able to provide support to professionalizing their current organizations. As of now, they could not produce the right volume, the right quality, at the right time to the needed processors and other stakeholders. So that's the key. And also key to all these multi-stakeholder partnerships that must be built at the local level especially. Of course, also at the regional, national, and global levels, is the presence of these professional organizations, without which, again, this multi-stakeholder partnership would not be most meaningful. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And a reminder to everybody that you're talking about, in the Philippines alone, some 200,000 farmers. Emphasis on 200,000 farmers. So that's an awful lot of people involved in the production process, and imagine indeed if they were professionalized. Now, we don't have, Kevin, the regulatory perspective, and that's all right. What we can do, because it's difficult to connect, it's early in the morning and the like, what we can do is ask him perhaps to provide a written commentary after the fact. We appreciated his readiness to join. But we do want to collect at least one question from the audience, if we have any. So I'm looking at our communications manager to see if we have any.
There are no comments in the chat,
no
turning to the public.
Are there any questions in the... I see a hand. I see a hand back there, Azadine. Even though the lights are blinding, I see a hand. Could you please introduce yourself? And then brief question so that we can have answers.
I'm Alison Baker. I'm co-founder of Eco Cascade, and we are a seaweed processing company on the west coast of Scotland. A question for Frank. You referenced biostimulants. It's very important to choose the right species for making biostimulants. What has your research found, and what species are you particularly looking at?
Very interesting question. We are right now producing biostimulant from seaweed from wild stock, okay, Laminaria species and some Ascophyllum as well. But since 3-4 years now, through European projects, actually, we got the opportunity to look at the cultivated kelps that are cultivated in Europe, and I don't want to disappoint everybody, but to be honest, we know that we can develop some biostimulant out of this type of biomass, so we are excited about it. However, it's not completely over-exciting, so we know we can work from it, and as processor, the processor are actually making value out of the extraction yields and the limited amount of process that you have to do on your biomass. And we feel that with the actual Saccharina latissima, which is the main one that is cultivated here in Europe, there is a gap and further process to be able to develop standardized biostimulant. It's feasible, and we have proved it. We have successful agronomical trial with this species, but it's not as simple as it sounds. And I have to add to that the regulatory framework, now the new one in Europe, requires from you to have a specific composition, and we have also to be careful to this aspect, because okay, this market has a great potential, but there is a frame that we need to be in.
Thank you very much. Now, the segment's not closed yet, but if you want to speak with more about this with any of the panelists, whether it's on displacement, whether it's on other aspects of the value chain, whether it's on better integration of stakeholders into the value chain, please, I invite you to discuss with our three panelists, and I'd like you all to give them a really warm round of applause for your interventions. Thank you. Now, Tiffany, can I give you the floor for 1 minute? So what are your key takeaways, having heard the panelists about the reports and having heard about the other report? 1 minute, please.
Yeah, absolutely. So one, I completely agree and really appreciate the comments from the panelists. I would say that one thing that the Nature Conservancy has been looking into right now actually is potentially testing different types of farmed seaweeds for their efficacy for biostimulants. That's something that we're really interested in, to be able to see what kind of application rates, what kind of species could prove to be as effective as wild. What our hope is that we can find different species that can compete with wild, and that potentially could even have, if you can dial it in, greater efficacy due to more consistency that can come from farm seaweed. So that's part of our hope, but we think that needs to occur through a trial, potentially with, both a controlled greenhouse trial and then going into row crops. We think that's something that we might want to be looking to do in the next year. And then I completely agree in terms of coalition building and working with farmers directly to make sure that we can provide them the support that they need. Very much in support of that here at the Nature.
Wrap up time, because we have one more speaker. Again, coming. So thank you, Tiffany. We have from the World Bank Group, Harrison Charo-Carissa, who has been following this, as I understand it, following this meeting since the beginning, and it's very early in the morning for him. Harrison is also a member of our Strategic Advisory Council. So Harrison, we wanted to give you the last word. Please, over to you.
Thank you very much, Nicola, for giving me this chance to speak. As you have said, I've been awake, but it's been very interesting. I've been fully awake, actually, this morning. I just want to zero in on the Global Seaweed New and Emerging Markets report that Carlota presented. This report has elicited a lot of excitement within the World Bank, and I believe also within some of the client countries, and I'll say that in a few seconds. We have had quite a number of downloads of this report. In fact, the interesting thing is that the most downloads have been of the larger report. We have both the summary and the larger report. And the larger report has been really downloaded over 1,500 times since it was launched. The whole thing has been downloaded. I mean, the two have been downloaded 1837 times, and has been viewed 2,730 something times. This is increasing every time. So I think some of the members are yet to download this report. Now, this report has also been downloaded or been requested by the president of the bank, which is a very rare thing to happen. So the interest is quite a lot. We really want to thank again the GSC for being part and parcel of this process. The webinars that you helped us to organize and all that, that is something that is bringing us to where we are today. We also want to thank the ProBlue for the trust fund for funding this work. So we are quite happy to report that right now we have also had some funding from the Korea World Bank Partnership Facility that is geared towards sharing information and knowledge from South Korea to other parts of the world, including Asia and Africa. We are looking at developing this seaweed in different countries. And I also want to report that quite a number of countries, in fact, this morning, as I woke up this morning to attend this meeting, already one country has just written to us wanting to know more because they have actually contacted the World Bank president. So this is at a very high level. Now, so it's kudos to all of us in the room who are actively engaging, trying to make sure this works. It's important also to realize that, as I said by some of the presenters here, we cannot afford to leave anybody behind when it comes to development of seaweed. It's a complex, it's a complicated thing. There are so many species that need to be looked at. There's so much science required, so much research that needs to go into this thing. We need to be able to work together. All the technology breakthroughs need to be available. How do we ensure that this happens? I think this can only happen when we have a dedicated fund, a dedicated center or a unit that is looking at this, the different aspects of seaweed development. We cannot afford to be very secretive about matters. And so I think it is important that we have a platform beyond what we have at the moment that can be able to access all the help that is required to ensure that we can get these products that we have shared in our report, and also the products that some of us have actually been looking in the industry. We want to be able to upscale these products so that people can be able to achieve, that they can use them to replace some of for example, the plastics that are being used, and also the chemical fertilizers. Now, how do we do this? I think it is important, again, for donor countries to come together. Of course, the World Bank, as I said, is very much interested in helping this kind of outfit. But we cannot afford to lose time. We need to move forward and ensure that action happens, because the demand for the biomass is critical. As you have seen, some people are doing research on how they can propagate the cultivars. It is important that we put more effort in this. And if that requires funding, I think it's important to bring together that ability to do more funding, more fundraising for the sake of the future of the planet and for the sake of the livelihoods of the women groups that are working so hard also to produce seaweed for our use. Thank you very much. I'll stop there.
Thank you really very much. And just want to underscore of the many, many important things, Harrison, that you shared there, that you made an important call for the industry, for an institutional change. And that leads us right into the next segment that Philippe is going to join us, as is Loretta Robertson of Woods Hole, the Marine Biological Laboratory, and Val Montelesco, who's the seaweed expert at Cargill. And we may also be joined by another Strategic Advisory Council member online. We're checking to see whether he's able to join. But I'm going to invite the panelists to come up while I keep talking, so that please keep coming up while I keep talking, so that we can move into the next segment efficiently. And there we go, almost. We are moving into the segment on science. So there we go. Have some music. Science and technology, what do we need? So we have prepped you for this. We're grounded in science, but please tell us, what scientific topics need funding now? What technologies need to be deployed? And how might a dedicated research consortium help? And you just had some help from the World Bank on that. So please, let me start with Val.
Okay. Well, thank you for having me here today. I think that there is nothing new about what needs to be done, just because there are a lot of papers and policy briefs already today on that. But I think it's very fortunate that we just have seen the videos from Michael Roleda or Faye Kim Lim, because for me, that's where it's really important today. I mean, for tropical red seaweed, it's more than urgent to organize ourselves in a way that we stop talking about seaweed, but we start talking about seaweed crops. Meaning by that it's really nice to have them working on this, but we need to accelerate this and have it at a global scale. By that, I mean perhaps having a research institute, the equivalent of what we have on rice, on wheat. And so that's what I'm meaning when we need to move seaweeds to the next level as another crop according to the standards of international crops. So for me, the research at the moment really should be focusing on that. We are already losing diversity. We are not even able today to map our traits of interest for different applications. And we don't know where to move the seaweed crops in the following years because we are unable today to locate suitable sites for tropical red seaweeds. So that's agronomic development, and for me at the moment, that's where urgent research and organization at international level is needed.
Thank you very much. Loretta.
Hi, thank you. I completely agree with what Val said, and I'll add to that in that several people today have talked about climate change and how we need to mitigate that. And I think identifying new species, we're only growing a handful of species when there are several thousands of species out there that are known, probably that equivalent that are unknown. And so getting more diversity into the crops that we're growing can help provide this resilience. And then secondly, looking at the value-added nature of seaweed. And so in the US, my experience has been the regulators are very concerned about seaweed farms and their impact on the environment. And so we've really had to focus on those ecosystem services. And I think that's another area where seaweed farmers can get something back by providing this additional habitat for other species, increasing biodiversity and productivity.
Terrific. Philippe.
To complete, I will, in fact, stress one point which was probably in the report about the future of the seaweed markets. In fact, of course, it's as everybody has said, it's a matter of biomass availability for the future, and that will require a lot of development of scientific approaches, including, of course, reproductive biology and genetics of seaweeds. But and of course, the environmental studies that will assess for the ecosystem services which could be provided in different continents with different seaweed cultivation. But we have also to stress that to develop seaweed cultivation in many continents, we will have to make it much more profitable than it is presently. And that is a huge challenge, which requires, of course, to be able to reduce the cost of seaweed cultivation processes, but also to improve the uses of seaweeds, as it is presently many valorizing one single ingredient from the biomass, and The rest consider it sometimes as waste. And so we have to invest in valorizing the core products of the seaweed industry, and it was also pointed by Frank in the previous panel. So that will require the development of new technologies for seaweed processing, and so the research on seaweed processing is also very important for the future, so that will require effort in terms of chemistry, biochemistry, and developing some, of course, engineering tools also, which will help to fractionate better the proteins from the fibers or polysaccharide fractions of the seaweeds.
Thank you. Now, since we don't have Arnie Matheson, it means that we actually have a little bit of time for some reflection, as well as questions from the audience, whether online or whether here. So please be thinking of your questions. And in the meantime, you don't know that I'm going to ask you this question, but it just seems, so this is going to be off the top of your heads. But there have been these conversations about the creation of a research consortium. What do you think, if you had to prioritize what actions needed to be taken so that such a research consortium could be established and effective, what would be your top two? Let me start with Val, because I know you have a top two.
No, but I mean, it's, we need to secure the seaweeds. That's the first one. Okay. And I don't want to create silos or anything, but really, seaweeds is the base of everything. And the second is about what we were discussing about professionalization. I know that it's perhaps not, hard science, but without farmers, no seaweeds. And in some areas of the world, it means that everything is relying on people that are not even getting a living wage out of it. So for me, that is my top two priorities, because for the rest, we have a bit of time, perhaps. For those two, it's quite urgent, in my opinion.
Right, Loretta, if you were in charge tomorrow of setting up such a research consortium, what would be your top priorities?
Wow, well, I think along the lines what we've been talking about here, just characterizing and valorizing the local seaweeds in each country. In many countries, as was pointed out earlier, we don't even know what those are, very little about them. And so in order for that country to exploit them, they need some more information. So a standard way to characterize them and understand, what are their polysaccharide contents, et cetera, I think would be really, really valuable.
All right, and Philippe.
Yeah, in terms of research consortia, fortunately for scientists, there is already some existing associations which have done great work during the last, I would say, 60 years, in fact, and it is not new to ask for scientific consortia to solve some issues in the seaweed sector. But for the future, we have to think a bit differently than we have done in the past. Of course, in science, we are all in competitions, and we are competing for call for proposals, we are competing for publications in high impact journals and so on. But for me, the future is not competition, it's cooperation. So we have to find the ways to really have several seaweed consortia. It will not be a single consortia which will solve all the problems. We will have to focus on some issues pointed by Valeria, for example, for the tropical red seaweeds. We will have to face some problems in other continents with temperate seaweeds. So, and that will require really to be complementary in our research to really collaborate as much as possible. And we have at the moment some agency which could help us. For example, the European Commission is quite favorable for cooperation with other agencies in other continents. They have launched very ambitious agreements in the past, like the Galway Statement, the Belém Statement, which have, in fact, provided some results and some impact with some large projects which are, for example, dedicated to integrated aquaculture in Europe, but together with Africa and South America. So that's the future for the consortium.
Terrific, thank you. Azadine, do we have, okay, I see two hands already in the room. Do we have a question from online?
And yes, we have a question, but that implies a big answer, so it will have to be a short answer. So should I phrase it? Okay. How do we increase trust in integrity of claims about carbon sequestration and biodiversity benefits?
Okay, not a small question at all, clearly. How do we increase trust about carbon sequestration? Which one of you would like to take that first?
Could you repeat the question? Because I think I didn't catch. It's about carbon sequestration.
How do we increase trust in integrity of claims about carbon sequestration? Because there are many claims about carbon sequestration.
For me, it depends which claiming, in fact, if it is really based on some recent publications which are claiming that there is some potential of the global seaweed populations, which are mainly wide population of seaweeds, to contribute to some sequestration presently and for the future. They have done that in the past. There is a very interesting work recently which were published about what could be the part of the seaweed biomass which could provide recalcitrant carbon, which could be released for more than 100 years, sometimes in deep water, but even in sediments. So that is a very important research which is already done. But of course, there is also some claims which are not based on some scientific evidence, so we have to fight against these claims.
And that's part of what the Scientific Council, with a pretty broad remit already, but sometimes pursuing ethical reflections to and helping the industry and helping the science world to see what's the state, presenting a very balanced view. We're going to take one question from the audience. So I think Azadine has already given the mic to the first person who made themselves visible to Azadine. So ask your question, and please, if you're directing it to an individual, please let us know. Please also introduce yourself, and also please make it quick.
Thank you very much. My name is Duncan Smallman from Scotland, from a company called Seaweed Generation. Question, I suppose, probably for Loretta, because she touched on the nerves of the regulators, but it could easily be open to all. You've mentioned the science that is required, but what about the technology so far as the Hatch report touches on claims of robust monitoring, well, MRV, monitoring, reporting and verification. How do you see the technology developing, and essentially to help with valorization, is that leading us down to greater automation?
Yeah, that's a great point, and that goes to the last question as well, that we really need, and we don't have right now, those standards for monitoring, reporting, and verification. And so I think as a coalition, we can help maybe define those standards so that people can better trust the results of those studies. And just to mention briefly, I think there is some technology using either just cameras or side scan sonar that can do rapid screens, and AI now can identify species and the seaweed itself and potentially the state of the seaweed. So I think those are being developed and could be used fairly soon.
All right. This is just a small taste of the kind of conversation that we can have, and we really encourage you to engage with our panelists offline. Let me ask each of you to give the 10-second, what's the takeaway that you want people to have? One sentence, and I didn't give you a chance to prepare it, so it has to be one sentence, it has to be a short sentence. So I'm going to start with Val and end with Philippe.
Invest on seaweed farming first.
That's a good one. Invest in seaweed farming first.
Identify species and collaborate.
Identify species and collaborate. Philippe.
Yeah, establish a strong scientific cooperation worldwide.
Cooperation. So when we've been hearing cooperation, integration, these are recurring themes. Thank you, panelists. Really appreciate your efforts. Thank you, audience, for your questions. You are hereby liberated. And we're going to go to the next segment, which is almost, we're almost done with this annual meeting. We've really taken this really far. So once again, I'm going to turn it over to myself to present the vision of the Secretariat for moving forward, and then I'm going to ask Adrien to come up and to share with us some perspectives on, we've been challenged to raise funds, But we want to do that in a careful way, and Adrien is thinking about that in a careful way. So first of all, what are we thinking about? First of all, it's important, we've heard it from you, that we continue what we're doing, that continuing the financing of projects. They look small in terms of financing, but you've already seen the incredible value that they generate. So, first of all is to continue with financing the kinds of projects that we're doing on that competitive call for proposals type of basis. Second, there is demand out there for financing of large and significant projects that have a significant public goods component to them that the private sector wouldn't finance on its own. Examples include seaweed in Africa, seaweed in West Africa, for instance. There's demand for this kind of project, but unlikely that it's going to find pure private financing. Consolidating research on seaweed and nutrition and deploying that in national dietary guidelines and in nutritional dashboards. That is something, it's a huge project. First of all, consolidating the research, and second of all, getting it deployed into those national guidelines and into dashboards such as the Global Alliance for Improved Nutrition, or GAINS. Projects on seaweed biodiversity, on biobanking, and the list goes on. Including, very importantly, you heard earlier from Anushka, the research pathway, for instance, for seaweed and methane. Is it a viable climate solution? If so, what's the pathway? How might we accelerate getting there because of the urgency? So many others. We've also been hearing about a dedicated seaweed research consortium. What might that look like? Now, there are commodities that have their own consortia. Potatoes, there's the International Potato Center, there's the International Rice Research Institute. Certain commodities that are just foods. They don't do that variety that, that we see that seaweed is able to do. They have their own, already their own research institutes. What might a research consortium look like? That's a big project, and if it is indeed established as a kind of institution, that's I don't even want to cite numbers, but let's just say that the cost would be important to look at, be very important to see I'm trying not to say scoping study because I want to leave that open to Adrien, but it would be important to see what kind of shape such a consortium would take so that it's most effective for the sector. And with all of that, we do need to assess the kinds of financial mechanisms that would be effective in supporting these kinds of activities. And that's the work that Adrien is working on, how to attract additional capital into the sector. We, by the way, as the Global Seaweed Coalition, we also see the need for some kind of light coordination of all of this to support this safe and sustainable scale-up of the seaweed sector. So a secretariat to manage the coalition's activities. Now, Adrien, with your solid expertise in fundraising, and you're leading our work on this, please share what the thinking is looking like. Thanks. Over to you.
And I know I'm more or less sitting between you and lunch, so I'll try to be efficient. But maybe two things. The first one is, as Nicola mentioned, in terms of the ambition of the coalition, you have heard all the recent successes we have been celebrating, all the grants that have been allowed through the coalition, all the webinars, all the working groups, all the real-life events, the advocacy, and all of that we want to be even more ambitious, and to be ambitious in this sense, like any organization, the coalition will need resources. And so we have the luxury of having been supported by a trusted, long-time partner with the Lloyd's Register Foundation, but to continue to achieve and increase this ambition, we are actively looking at additional partners. And so we have been engaging in the past 6 months and will continue to engage with government donors, with philanthropy, and with corporates to continue to support the coalition. So this is like fundraising for the coalition mandate. And then there is, I think, this broader question about how can we attract more capital into the industry. And in these periods, oftentimes we see investors, private sector investors, saying, it looks attractive, your seaweed stuff, but for us, the kind of risk-reward profile is not there yet. So we need some help to help de-risk this kind of investments, and this is where new mechanisms can come into play. You might have heard about blended finance, so how to better leverage public and philanthropic money to de-risk private investments. And we have this gut feeling and strong belief today with the team that some kind of blended fund for seaweed could make sense. We are not sure exactly the shape and form, and so we are also fundraising to get a proper feasibility study on what could be the blueprint and the mission of such a fund. So with that, I hope this is what you were expecting, Nicola. Thank you, everybody, and see you later.
Thank you, Adrien. And now to close out this segment, we are so very fortunate. We have a pre-recorded video from the Chief Executive Officer, Assistant Secretary General, Sanda Ojiambo, CEO of UN Global Compact. So please run Sanda's video. Thank you.
Excellencies, business leaders, distinguished guests. It's a real pleasure to co-host the first ever EU Algae Awareness Summit, together with the European Commission and the French government, and speak to you today about an important resource for companies and communities around the world. Seaweed, or macroalgae, has enormous potential in a world that urgently needs sustainable solutions. The seaweed industry holds promise for addressing the triple planetary crisis of climate change, air pollution, and biodiversity loss, along with bolstering local economies and alleviating hunger and poverty. First, seaweed can feed people. Seaweeds are rich in macro and micronutrients and can help address malnutrition. Seaweed can also be used to feed animals, while at the same time helping to address the climate crisis. There is indeed promising research about seaweed's potential to reduce methane emissions from cattle and other farm animals. Since methane has a far more immediate impact on the atmosphere than carbon dioxide, tackling these emissions from livestock is vital to our fight against rising temperatures. Moreover, seaweed-based materials are emerging as viable replacements for plastics. This biodegradable option could revolutionize our approach to waste management and make a significant dent in plastic pollution on land and in our waters. Right now, about 99% of the world's seaweed production comes from Asia, with countries like China, Indonesia, and the Philippines leading the way. Despite its growing interest in the seaweed industry, Europe lags far behind. To bridge this gap, knowledge sharing is essential. Dear friends, to harness the full spectrum of seaweed's benefits, we need a coordinated global strategy that brings every stakeholder to the table, from governments and commercial enterprises to local communities. The Global Seaweed Coalition, hosted by the UN Global Compact, was developed to ensure inclusivity at every level and utilize the most up-to-date science. But there's still so much more to learn about the benefits and sustainable seaweed production. To advance research across the sector, we need a global scientific research body focused solely on seaweed, building on the work of the Global Seaweed Coalition. This specialized entity would support the industry's sustainability by developing universally accepted and harmonized safety and quality standards. So today I call upon governments, the private sector, and the international community to join us in this journey. Together, we can translate seaweed's potential into a thriving and sustainable nature-based industry. Thank you.
So, some of you may have guessed that that video was prepared for the EU Summit. We wanted to give you a little avant-première of the video because we are indeed housed in the UN Global Compact, and we're just really delighted to see this call for support at the highest level. Sanda, for those of you who don't know, reports directly to the UN Secretary General. So it's really important that seaweed is getting this level of support that is being taken into these supranational bodies like this. We are almost at the end. Some of you may have noticed during the break that we had the graphic recording presentation of of what's been going on so far. Our scribe Fanny has been doing a terrific job, and now she's going to share with us the fast version of what was discussed. Fanny, over to you, please. Round of applause for Fanny.
Thank you. I'm very thrilled. I have been listening deeply all these presentations, and it was so inspiring. Thank you. So as a graphic facilitator, my role was to capture live the different inputs, the essence of the conversation, while you were explaining, presenting the different projects, initiatives, the coalition. So maybe I will ask to Andrea to help me, and I will take you for a drawing tour. So here you can see the time lapse of the creation process. The idea is to show you a bit of a holistic vision of it, and it's relevant also while talking about seaweed, as we need to think about the environmental, the social, but also economical challenges. So we heard about the coalition, its core values, how it has been implementing on the ground, concrete projects that the coalition is supporting, stories about passionate entrepreneurs, designers, researchers. We heard about the latest achievement of the coalition, the importance of empowering women working and involved in the sector. We celebrated the members, heard about wonderful projects, then understood the challenges also of the sector. How can we involve all the value chain stakeholders? Heard about scientists raising the alarm of urgency, moving to the next level. And now it's time to keep doing these beautiful project initiatives, networking, still connected with each other. Thank you for listening, and we will share the drawings with you later.
Wow, Fanny, thank you for capturing the meeting in this way. And for those of you who weren't already convinced about the importance of artwork, the importance of art to what we do, I think you've just proved that to us. And you'll see some examples outside as well. There are several different examples of artwork. Do go as far as the Salle du Conseil. There's a beautiful piece of art in there. All right, so I guess we'll keep this up while I do the closing. And the closing, really just to flag a couple of key events that are coming up. If you are part of an organization that attends them, please do, and please be carrying the messages. And if you're not, please follow what's going on, and please use the online and other forms of chat to engage. So there's the United Nations Environment Assembly. That's going to be happening early-ish next year, February to March of next year. There's the Ocean Decade Week that is coming up as well. That is in April of 2024. And of course, you already heard about UNOC, the UN Ocean Conference that's going to be happening here in France in Nice in 2025. And of course, there's so much more, because that's just on the ocean and the environment. There are also food systems conversations. There are climate conversations. There are biodiversity conversations, as you heard about when Vincent was sharing about the importance of our advocacy. So please, in whatever domain makes sense to you, please be raising awareness about seaweed and carrying the message. Time now to bring this to a close by thanking people. First of all, thank you to all of our speakers. Thank you for making this such a rich event. Whether you were speakers online, the ones who got up so early in the morning to be following this, this conference, thank you very much, as well as to everybody in the room. Thanks for your thoughtful, prepared remarks. Thanks for your thoughtful interventions. We're really grateful to the European Commission for giving us this platform to be able to have our annual meeting on the margins of the first EU Algae Awareness Summit, and we hope that many of you, if not all of you, will be staying on for that, for the summit. Thanks to the Maison de l'Océan for this incredible, fabulous venue. There could not have been a better, more appropriate venue for this meeting. We're truly grateful to the venue. Thank you, of course, to our founding partners for all of your support. It is greatly appreciated, and thank you to future partners who will be supporting us. And thanks to all those from the team who couldn't be here present. Thank you, finally, to all of our members. Every single one of you, whether you're here in this room, whether you're online, whether you're new, whether you've been in the coalition all along. And finally, last but definitely not least, the observant ones amongst you will have noticed that Anushka got up. Why did Anushka get up? I'm going to take one of these right now. So, Andrea, would you be so kind as to come up, please? We are just so grateful to you. We wouldn't have had this annual meeting had it not been for Andrea, because at the same time as she was producing the annual report, she was also producing this annual meeting. So this is a small token of our appreciation. To our intern, who has delivered fabulously. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yeah, it's really been a teamwork to work on this together, so I'm really proud and happy to be able to, that I was involved in this, and to be also part of the seaweed community. Thank you.
So now it's officially over. For those of you online, please do stay on to be able to join the summit, which is going to be starting in some 45 minutes or so. In the meantime, those of you who are here, there's coffee and tasting, and by tasting I don't mean lunch. So if you want something that's more substantive, lunch-like, there's plenty of restaurants in the neighborhood, but you're welcome to stay for what is the welcome coffee and tastings of the EU Algae Summit. So that will be right outside. And please come back in 45 minutes for the start of the summit, and it looks like Vincent has something to say, so here we go.
Yeah, I would just like to thank Marwan over there, who is representing the next generation here. He is committed to support this seaweed revolution in his school, and he joined us today, and I think it's very important if we want to make a change, to make it for the next generation.
Please.